The stars were wrong. Kratos had seen many skies, the burning heavens of Olympus, the fractured realms of Yggdrasil, the ash-choked atmosphere of Muspelheim. But this void was different, infinite, cold in a way that had nothing to do with temperature. The Bifrost light that had surrounded them moments ago, Freya's desperate attempt to seal the rift's Ragnarok, had torn between worlds, had twisted, corrupted, pulled them not between the 9 realms, but somewhere else entirely. Somewhere beyond even the world tree's reach. Father. Atreus' voice cut through the disorientation. The boy, no, young man now, was gripping Kratos' arm, his bow clutched in the other hand. Around them, reality stabilized into something comprehensible. Metal. Vast industrial structures stretching in every direction. Ships the size of mountains hanging in orbital cradle docks, their hulls bristling with weapon emplacements that dwarfed anything from Midgard stories. Where are we? Mimir's voice emerged from Kratos' belt, the severed head's eyes blinking against harsh artificial light. That's not any realm I recognize, brother. And I've seen a few in my time. Kratos' hand went to the Leviathan axe on his back, muscles tensing. They stood on some kind of platform, a landing pad suspended in space, enclosed by a shimmering barrier that held atmosphere. Beyond it, the void stretched eternal, dotted with stars that formed no constellations he knew. No Yggdrasil branches cutting through reality. No auroras of magic. Just cold, calculated emptiness punctuated by technology. Those ships. Atreus moved toward the barrier's edge, wonder momentarily overriding caution. They're like the dwarven constructs, but bigger. So much bigger. A klaxon suddenly blared. Harsh, mechanical, nothing like the war horns Kratos knew. Red lights began pulsing across the platform. From alcoves in the walls, figures emerged. Not Einherjar. Not Draugr. Men in white armor, their forms identical. Faces hidden behind expressionless helmets. They carried weapons that hummed with barely contained energy. Halt. The voice was distorted, artificial. Unauthorized entry detected. Identify yourselves or be terminated. Kratos stepped in front of Atreus, his eyes narrowing. The Ghost of Sparta had faced armies before. These armored soldiers moved with discipline, their weapons trained with professional efficiency. But there was something hollow about them, something that reminded him of the mindless warriors Ares had once commanded. "We mean no harm," Atreus said, raising one hand slowly. The diplomatic approach, lessons learned from their journey. "We're lost. That portal, we didn't choose to come here." Scanning life forms. Another voice, this one from a floating sphere that had drifted close. Some kind of droid, Kratos realized, though far more sophisticated than Brock and Sindri's contraptions. Unknown species. Unknown technology. Energy signatures match no known force disciplines. Biological readings, impossible. The large subject's cellular structure suggests. "Take them," the lead soldier commanded. "Lord Vader will want to see this." The name meant nothing to Kratos. But the tone, that casual assumption of obedience, of ownership, that he knew well. It was the voice of every tyrant he'd ever killed. No. The word came out flat, final. 20 weapons trained on him. The soldier's fingers tightened on triggers. "Father." Atreus' voice carried warning. "We walk our own path, boy." Kratos' hand closed around the Leviathan axe's handle. The weapon responded, frost rhyming its blade even in the controlled atmosphere. "We bow to no one. Not anymore." The first soldier fired. A bolt of red energy screamed toward Kratos' chest, and he moved. The speed that had allowed him to fight gods and monsters translated perfectly here. The axe came up, its blade intercepting the energy bolt. Instead of burning through him, the blast scattered against ancient dwarf forged rime, dissipating into steam and sparks. For a heartbeat, everything froze. The soldiers processing what they'd seen. Kratos calculating trajectories. Atreus drawing his bow with fluid grace. Then chaos erupted. The platform became a battlefield. If you want to see more characters enter the Star Wars galaxy, hit that subscribe button and drop the name of a character you'd want to see in the comments below. May the Force be with you. Kratos surged forward, the Leviathan axe singing through air. The first soldier tried to block. The axe sheared through armor and body both, frost spreading from a wound. Kratos didn't stop. Couldn't stop. These weren't innocents. They'd drawn weapons first, threatened his son. The Ghost of Sparta's judgment was absolute. A thrown axe spun through 3 soldiers before Kratos recalled it with an outstretched hand, the weapon flying back to his grip as naturally as breathing. Behind him, Atreus' arrows found gaps in armor with surgical precision, each shot placed to disable rather than kill. The boy still held hope for mercy. Kratos knew better, but wouldn't take that from him. Not yet. Reinforcements incoming. Mimir shouted. More of the armored bastards, and something bigger. The docking bay's main doors were opening. Through them marched a full platoon of soldiers, and behind them, something that made even Kratos pause. A mechanical warrior, 7 feet tall, its body a nightmare fusion of human anatomy and machine components. Where a face should be, only a black mask regarded them with a motionless intent. Impressive, the mechanical voice intoned, distorted by respirator. You fight well for primitives. But this ends now. The figure raised one hand, and Kratos felt it. A pressure against his throat. Invisible. Inexorable. His feet left the ground as some unseen force gripped him, lifting him like a child's toy. The Leviathan axe fell from his hand, clattering against metal. Father, Atreus' cry was desperate. The force is absolute, the masked figure continued, stepping closer. Your strength means nothing here. Surrender, and the boy may live to serve the Empire. Darkness crept at the edges of Kratos' vision. The grip tightened. But within that darkness, something older awakened. Something that had toppled Olympus itself. The Ghost of Sparta's eyes began to glow, not blue like magic, not green like realm travel, but white-hot with rage that transcended mortal limits. Spartan rage. The shock wave that erupted from Kratos shattered the invisible grip like glass. He dropped to the platform, landing in a crouch as primal fury flooded his muscles. The blades of chaos materialized in his hands, not summoned from his back, but from his very essence, wreathed in flames that burned hotter than any star. Impossible. The mechanical warrior breathed. Kratos rose to his full height, chains rattling, flames reflecting in his eyes. When he spoke, his voice carried the weight of 1,000 battles, 1,000 gods felled by mortal hands. We are not prey. He moved like lightning given form. The blades of chaos became extensions of his will, cutting through armor, wrapping around weapons, pulling soldiers off balance before flames consumed them. The mechanical warrior tried to use that invisible force again, but Spartan rage made Kratos something beyond normal physical laws, something that defied control. Their weapons clashed, ancient chains against crimson energy blade. For the first time, Kratos saw the weapon clearly, a sword of pure light, contained by some technological miracle. It hissed against his blades, sparks flying where divine fire met plasma. You are strong, the warrior acknowledged, pressing the attack. But strength alone will not save you in this galaxy. Then let me show you. Kratos caught both chain blades in one hand, the other shooting forward to grip his opponent's wrist. What killing gods taught me. With brutal efficiency, he twisted. Metal shrieked. Servos sparked. The energy blade deactivated as its wielder's arm bent at an unnatural angle. Before the warrior could react, Kratos' head but dented the black mask, followed by a knee to the midsection that crumpled reinforced armor. The mechanical warrior fell, wheezing through a damaged respirator. Around them, the surviving soldiers had backed away, their weapons trained, but no one willing to fire first. Atreus stood ready, bow drawn, covering his father's flank. Mimir watched everything with keen interest. Now, Kratos growled, his grip tightening on his blades. You will tell us where we are, and how we return home. The warrior's damaged mask tilted upward, regarding the Ghost of Sparta with something that might have been respect. Home. A bitter laugh emerged from broken speakers. You're in the Fonder shipyards, Imperial space, and there is no escape from the Empire. Lord Vader will. There is always escape. Kratos' eyes held certainty forged across lifetimes. I have broken chains before. Alarms continued to wail. In the distance, more ships were converging. Whatever empire controlled this realm, it would not let this incursion go unanswered. But as Kratos looked at his son, seeing determination in Atreus' eyes, feeling the weight of Mimir at his belt, he knew one truth. They had survived Ragnarok. They would survive this too. The galaxy had never met the Ghost of Sparta. It was about to learn what it meant to face a god-killer. The Imperial Shuttle Bay had become a tomb of twisted metal and cooling bodies. Kratos stood amid the carnage, breathing steady despite the Spartan rage slowly receding from his veins. The mechanical warrior, whatever rank he held, lay unconscious, his armor cracked like eggshell. Atreus lowered his bow, scanning the shadows for more threats. Well, Mimir said dryly, that's one way to make a first impression. Though I'm thinking these folk won't be inviting us for tea and pleasant conversation. Kratos retrieved the Leviathan axe, feeling its familiar weight settle against his palm. The weapon hummed with satisfaction, frost still rimming its edges. Through the docking bay's transparent barrier, he could see more of those mountain-sized ships moving into position. Their hulls bristled with weapons that could level cities. An armada beyond anything Midgard had ever conceived. Father, look at this. Atreus had moved to one of the control panels, his fingers hovering over strange symbols that glowed with inner light. The boy had always been quick with languages, able to read runes even Mimir struggled with. But these markings were different, angular, precise, utterly foreign. Can you read it? Kratos asked. Not exactly. Atreus frowned, concentration evident in his features. But I can feel something. Like when we found Jotnar shrines, but different, colder, more. He pressed his palm against the panel, and suddenly information flooded across multiple screens. Star charts, ship manifests, what looked like military deployments across hundreds of worlds. The boy's got a gift, Mimir observed. These systems are responding to him like he's authorized personnel. That's no coincidence, brother. Whatever power runs through this place, it recognizes something in your son. Kratos didn't like that. Didn't like anything that marked Atreus as special, as chosen. Those paths led to prophecies and manipulation. Gods and giants had tried to control his son's destiny before. He wouldn't allow it again. What does it say? He asked. Atreus' eyes moved across the flowing text, widening with each revelation. Father, this isn't a realm. It's a galaxy. Millions of worlds, billions of people. And they're all under the control of something called the Galactic Empire. His voice grew quieter. There was a war. The Empire won. They hunt anyone with, they call it the Force. Hunt them and kill them or twist them into servants. Sounds familiar, Kratos said grimly. How many times had he seen this pattern? Zeus commanding absolute loyalty. Odin's paranoid control over the realms. Power concentrated in the hands of those who claimed divine right. The screens shifted, showing images that made Atreus step back. Worlds burning. Cities reduced to ash. Beings of all shapes and species, some humanoid, others utterly alien, kneeling before soldiers in black armor. And above it all, a hooded figure whose face remained hidden, but whose presence radiated authority. The Emperor, Atreus read. Palpatine. He destroyed the old order, something called the Jedi, and now rules through fear. He turned to Kratos, and in his son's eyes was a question the Ghost of Sparta had hoped to avoid. Father, we have to help them. No. The word was immediate, absolute. But we find a way home, boy. Kratos moved toward the unconscious warrior, searching for anything useful. This is not our fight. How can you say that? Atreus' voice carried heat now, the passion that had grown stronger since Ragnarok. You saw those bodies in the streets when we fought Heimdall. You've seen what tyrants do. This emperor is no different than Odin. Exactly. Kratos found a communication device on the warrior's belt, small and intricate. We spent years trying to prevent one apocalypse. Look where it led us, torn from our realm, stranded in this galaxy. We survive. We return. That is all. That's not all. Atreus was shouting now, his bow clenched in white-knuckled fists. You taught me to be better than you were, to choose mercy over vengeance. But now you want to walk away while people suffer. Kratos rose slowly, turning to face his son. The argument was old, worn through repetition across their journey. Atreus wanting to save everyone. Kratos knowing the cost of playing hero in someone else's war. I want to keep you alive, Kratos said quietly. I have lost everything I ever loved to wars that were not mine to fight. I will not lose you too. Before Atreus could respond, the communication device in Kratos' hand crackled to life. A voice emerged, cold and precise. Inquisitor Moore's report. What is your status? Kratos looked at the device, then at the unconscious warrior. This Inquisitor. He activated the transmission. Dead, Kratos said simply. Silence stretched for 3 heartbeats. When the voice returned, its temperature had dropped further. Identify yourself. Someone who does not serve your empire. Amusing, but ultimately meaningless. The voice carried certainty that grated against Kratos like stone on stone. You are in Imperial space, aboard an Imperial facility. There is nowhere to run. No allies will come. Surrender now, and your death will be swift. I have heard such promises before, Kratos said, from gods and monsters alike. They all fell. Gods. Now there was interest in the voice, sharp and calculating. How fascinating. Lord Vader will indeed want to meet you, as will the Emperor himself. Your defiance has earned you that much, an audience before execution. The transmission cut off. Immediately, the docking bay's ambient lighting shifted to harsh red. More alarms wailed. Through the transparasteel barrier, Kratos watched as entire sections of the orbital facility began to move, reconfiguring themselves into what could only be a trap. Brother, Mimir said urgently, I'm seeing gun batteries rotating our way. Big ones. The kind that could crack a mountain. We need to move. Atreus was already running toward a corridor marked with angular symbols. The system says there are ships this way, smaller craft we might be able to use. Kratos followed, the Leviathan axe ready in his grip. The corridor was wide enough for 3 men to walk abreast, its walls lined with more of those glowing panels and strange mechanisms. Their footsteps echoed against metal as they ran. This force they mentioned, Kratos said as they moved. What is it? From what I could read, Atreus vaulted over a cargo crate, landing smoothly. It's like magic, but different. An energy field that connects all living things. Some people can sense it, use it. Those people, force sensitives, they're what the Empire hunts. The Inquisitor grabbed you with it, Mimir added. Invisible hand around the throat. Nasty trick. But our boy here broke free through sheer bloody-minded rage. That's going to have them worried. They rounded a corner and found themselves facing another patrol. 6 soldiers, these ones with orange markings on their white armor. The soldiers raised their weapons immediately. Contact. Open. Kratos threw the Leviathan axe. It spun through the air, the frost trail behind it beautiful and deadly. The blade took the speaker in the chest, freezing him solid, before momentum carried the body backward into his companions. Kratos recalled the axe and surged forward, not giving them time to recover. The blades of chaos came out mid-run. Fire danced along their lengths as Kratos whirled into the remaining soldiers. He'd fought in closer quarters than this, the narrow streets of Sparta, the cramped corridors of Olympus. These warriors were disciplined, trained, but they had never faced someone who had spent lifetimes perfecting the art of killing. One soldier managed to fire his weapon. The energy bolt caught Kratos in the shoulder, burning through the leather strap that held his axe harness. Pain flared, real sharp. These weapons could hurt him. Good. Complacency killed. He grabbed the shooter by the helmet and slammed him into the wall hard enough to leave a dent. Another tried to activate some kind of energy blade. a crackling stick that hummed with contained power. Kratos caught the warrior's wrist, twisted until bones snapped, then drove his knee into the man's midsection. Behind him, Atreus's arrows found their marks. The boy had switched to shock arrows, not lethal, but enough to drop targets instantly. Mercy where possible. Kratos didn't share the sentiment, but wouldn't stop his son from choosing his own path. The fight lasted 30 seconds. When it ended, 6 more bodies lay in the corridor. "They'll keep coming," Atreus said, already moving forward. The system showed hundreds of personnel on this station. "Let them come." Kratos checked the burn on his shoulder. Painful, but manageable. "They die like anyone else." They reached a hangar, smaller than the first, but still vast by mortal standards. Dozens of ships sat in precise rows, each one sleek and angular, painted in grays and blacks. They looked fast, built for combat rather than cargo. TIE fighters, Atreus read from a nearby console. Short-range attack craft. And there, he pointed to a larger vessel near the far wall. A shuttle. Hyperdrive capable. "That's what we need." "Can you fly it?" Kratos asked. "I've never flown anything except." Atreus paused. "Actually, after the giant eagle, how hard can this be?" "Famous last words, lad," Mimir muttered. They ran for the shuttle. Its boarding ramp was down, lights active inside. Kratos went first, weapons ready, scanning for threats. The interior was all harsh angles and utilitarian design. Seats for passengers, a cockpit forward with 2 pilot positions, storage compartments along the walls. Atreus moved to the pilot's chair, his hands hovering over controls that glowed with ready status. Okay, I can do this." The symbols are responding to me again. Like the console. Like they want me to understand. "That force," Mimir said. "It's in the boy, brother. Has to be. Question is why? He's not from this galaxy." Kratos didn't answer. He was watching the hangar entrance, where red lights now pulsed with increasing urgency. Any moment, more soldiers would arrive. Or worse, more of those inquisitors with their invisible grip and burning blades. "Atreus," he said quietly. "Fly. Now." "I'm trying." The shuttle's engines whined to life, then died. Atreus cursed, a word he'd learned from the dwarves, and tried again. This time the engines caught, roaring with barely contained power. The shuttle lurched upward, tilting precariously. "Easy, boy," Mimir shouted. "We want to leave, not crash." The hangar's main doors began to close. Emergency protocols. Trap them inside until overwhelming force could be brought to bear. But Atreus's hands moved across the controls with growing confidence, and the shuttle responded. It spun, angling toward the shrinking opening, engines screaming as it accelerated. They shot through the gap with meters to spare, emerging into open space just as weapons fire erupted behind them. Kratos gripped his seat as the shuttle banked hard, evading energy bolts that filled the void with deadly light. "Where do we go?" Atreus asked, his voice tight with concentration as he wove between defensive fire. Kratos looked out at the endless stars, the massive ships that hung in the darkness like waiting predators, the sprawling facility they'd just escaped. Somewhere in this impossible galaxy was a way home, but finding it would require answers. And answers required survival. "Away from here," he said. "Find somewhere we can learn about this empire, its weaknesses, its enemies. So we are going to fight them?" There was hope in Atreus's voice. "No." Kratos watched as more ships began pursuing them. "We are going to survive. And if they stand in our way," his grip tightened on the blades of chaos, "they will learn what it means to hunt the Ghost of Sparta." The shuttle jumped to light speed, leaving the Imperial facility, and it's dead, far behind. Hyperspace was wrong. Not dangerous. Kratos had faced dangers that would break most men's minds, but fundamentally alien. The shuttle's viewport showed streaks of light, reality stretched and twisted into tunnels of distorted starlight. It reminded him of traveling between realms through Yggdrasil's branches, but colder, more mechanical, as if some cosmic force had been harnessed and bent to mortal will through technology alone. "This is incredible," Atreus breathed, his hands still on the controls, but his eyes fixed on the hyperspeed display. We're moving faster than light itself. Faster than anything in the 9 realms. Except maybe Sleipnir at full gallop, Mimir added. Though I'll grant you, this is a close second. Where exactly are we headed, lad? I don't know. Atreus glanced at the navigation console, where streams of data scrolled past in that angular script. When I touched the controls, something just told me where to go. A safe route. Away from Imperial patrols. He looked back at Kratos, uncertainty crossing his features. That force again. It's like it's guiding me. Nothing guides us, Kratos said flatly. Not fate. Not prophecy. Not this force. But what if it's not control? Atreus's voice carried that familiar edge, the need to understand, to find meaning in chaos. What if it's just connection? The way I could talk to animals back home. This might be how I connect here. Before Kratos could respond, the console began blaring warnings. Atreus's hands flew across the controls, and reality snapped back into focus as they dropped from hyperspace. Through the viewport, a planet materialized rust-colored, dotted with industrial complexes and the skeletal remains of massive mining operations. Where are we? Kratos moved to stand behind Atreus's chair, scanning the planet's surface. NAR, Shada. Atreus read the designation from the console. The system calls it the Smuggler's Moon, a haven for criminals, bounty hunters, and anyone trying to avoid the Empire. Sounds like our kind of place, Mimir said. Though I'd wager we stand out like Asgardians at a dark elf funeral. The shuttle descended through polluted atmosphere, and as they dropped below the cloud layer, the true nature of NAR Shada revealed itself. This was no natural world. Every surface was covered in structures, layers upon layers of platforms and buildings stretching kilometers into the sky. Neon lights blazed in the perpetual twilight, advertising pleasures and vices in 100 languages. Ships of all sizes weaved between buildings like insects around a corpse. It reminded Kratos of the lower levels of Olympus, the forgotten places where desperate souls scraped for survival, while gods feasted above. He had more sympathy for those places now than he'd had in his youth. Atreus guided the shuttle toward a landing platform that jutted from a particularly decrepit tower. As they touched down with a barely perceptible bump, Kratos noticed figures emerging from the shadows. Not soldiers this time, but beings of various species, some humanoid, others decidedly not. All armed, all watching the Imperial shuttle with predatory interest. We may have a problem, Atreus said. We always have a problem. Kratos moved toward the boarding ramp, the Leviathan axe already in his hand. Stay close. Trust no one. The ramp descended with a hydraulic hiss. The air that rushed in was thick with industrial smog and the smell of 1,000 unwashed bodies packed too close together. Music blared from somewhere nearby, discordant, alien, aggressive. Voices shouted in languages Kratos didn't recognize, though their tones were universal. Anger, greed, desperation. He stepped onto the platform and conversation died. Every eye locked onto him. This massive scarred warrior with red tattoos marking ashen skin, carrying weapons that looked primitive yet radiated threat. Behind him, Atreus emerged, bow in hand, looking young but dangerous. One of the figures stepped forward, a Radian, though Kratos had no name for the green-skinned alien with insectoid eyes. It spoke in a chittering language, gesturing at the shuttle with a blaster. Brother, Mimir whispered from Kratos' belt. I'm guessing that's not a friendly welcome. A human pushed through the crowd, or mostly human. Half his face was replaced with cybernetics, glowing red in the dim light. He looked at Kratos with his one organic eye, taking in the weapons, the scars, the stance of someone who had killed more times than most people had breathed. You've got some stones, the cyborg said in accented basic, landing an Imperial shuttle in neutral territory. Either you're monumentally stupid, or you stole it. His metal fingers drummed against his blaster. Which is it? Stole it, Kratos said. No point in lying. That got reactions, surprise, respect, nervous laughter. The cyborg's human eye widened. You stole from the Empire and lived? He let out a bark of laughter. Now that's a story worth hearing. Name's Ratch. This is my territory you're standing on. That means you pay a landing fee, or... He let the threat hang. Kratos tilted his head slightly. Or we take the shuttle, your weapons, and whatever parts of you might fetch a price with the Hutts. Ratch's cybernetic implants whirred as he smiled. No offense, big guy. Just business. Father. Atrus's warning came too late. Kratos moved. Not with Spartan rage. That would be overkill. Just the practiced efficiency of a warrior who had fought in the streets of Sparta long before gods entered his life. He closed the distance in 2 steps, grabbed Ratch by the throat with his free hand, and lifted him off the ground. The blasters came up immediately, a dozen weapons trained on Kratos. He didn't care. His eyes locked onto Ratch's human one, letting the cyborg see exactly what kind of death waited there. You threaten my son, Kratos said quietly. That is the last mistake you will make. Father, wait. Atrus had his bow drawn, but wasn't aiming at anyone. Let him talk. Ratch was making choking sounds, his cybernetic hand clawing at Kratos's iron grip. The Ghost of Sparta held him for another moment, long enough to make the point, then dropped him. The cyborg hit the ground gasping. We need information, Atrus said, stepping between his father and the assembled thugs. About this galaxy. About the Empire. About. He hesitated, then committed. About the Force. That word sent a ripple through the crowd. Weapons lowered slightly. Expressions shifted from hostile to wary to afraid. Ratch pulled himself up, rubbing his throat. The Force. His voice was hoarse. You're asking about the Force? He looked at Kratos with new understanding. What are you? I've seen strong before, but that grip and the way you moved, that's not natural. We are not from here, Kratos said. We were brought to this galaxy against our will. We seek a way home. And picking fights with Imperial patrols seemed like a good start. Another voice joined the conversation, feminine, carrying authority. The crowd parted to reveal a Twi'lek woman, her blue skin marked with scars, 2 blasters holstered at her hips. I watched your approach. Imperial shuttle, erratic flying, no transponder codes. Either you're the worst infiltrators in history, or you're telling the truth about the theft. She moved closer, studying Kratos, with eyes that had seen too much. I'm Kessera. I run the information network on this level, and information about anyone who can take on the Empire and survive. She smiled without warmth. That's worth a lot of credits. We have no credits, Atrus said. But you have that. Kessera pointed at the Leviathan axe. That weapon. It's not tech. I can see that from here. It's something else. And your friend there. She looked at Kratos. He threw you around like a child. Ratch. No augments, no force tricks that I could sense. Just raw strength. Her head tilted. The Hutts would pay handsomely for warriors like you. We are not for sale. Kratos's voice carried finality. Everything's for sale on NAR Shada, Kessera countered. But let's call it a trade instead. Information for a job. You help me with something. I'll tell you everything I know about the Empire, the Force, and maybe even point you toward someone who might be able to help with your dimensional problem. What job? Atrus asked before Kratos could refuse. Kessera's smile widened. There's an Imperial garrison 3 levels down. Small operation, maybe 20 troopers, 1 officer. They've been extorting protection money from the merchants, killing anyone who refuses. Bad for business. Worse for morale. She gestured at Kratos. You obviously don't like the Empire. We need them gone. Simple transaction. You want us to kill for you, Kratos said. I want you to do what you're apparently good at. Kessera crossed her arms. Besides, you need supplies. Food, water, civilian clothes, so you don't stand out quite so much. Credits to move around the galaxy. I can provide all that, but not for free. Kratos looked at his son. Atrus met his gaze, and in that moment they communicated without words, a skill honed through years of fighting side by side. The boy's expression said what Kratos already knew. They needed help. needed information. And despite his instinct to avoid entanglement, they couldn't operate in complete ignorance of this galaxy. "One job," Kratos said. "Then you tell us everything. Deal." Kessera extended her hand. Kratos stared at it for a moment, then gripped it briefly. The Twi'lek's eyes widened at the strength in that handshake, but she maintained her composure. "You'll want to go in quiet. Can you do quiet?" Atreus laughed, short and sharp. "You have no idea." 2 hours later, they crouched on a rusted gantry overlooking the Imperial garrison. Kratos had traded his more distinctive armor pieces for a dark cloak that did little to hide his size, but at least obscured the red markings. Atreus wore similar garb, his bow concealed beneath fabric. 23 hostiles, Atreus whispered, his enhanced senses picking out movement in the garrison below. Most in the main building. 4 on patrol. 1 wait. His eyes narrowed. That officer. There's something different about him. Kratos followed his son's gaze. The officer stood apart from the troops, his uniform black instead of gray. And, around him, the air seemed to shimmer, not with heat, but with something else. That force again. He can sense things, Mimir whispered. Like our Inquisitor friend. This won't be as simple as Kessera made it sound. It never is, Kratos said. He studied the layout, exits, choke points, potential ambush positions. Tactical thinking honed through centuries of war. We take the patrols first. Quietly. Then the officer. And the others? Atreus asked. Kratos' expression remained neutral. They chose to serve an empire that murders innocents. They made their choice. Father. Atreus' voice carried that familiar conflict. Some of them might just be soldiers, following orders. Following orders does not absolve them. Kratos had learned that lesson in blood, his own and others. But if you wish to offer mercy, I will not stop you. After we secure the officer. They moved like shadows, ironic given Kratos' size. But the Ghost of Sparta had hunted in darkness before, had stalked prey through the underworld itself. The first patrol never heard him coming. A hand over the mouth, a twist to the neck. Quick. Clean. Necessary. Atreus took the second patrol with shock arrows, dropping them unconscious rather than dead. Different methods, same result. Threats eliminated. The officer was harder. As they approached, his head snapped up, hand going to his weapon, another of those light swords. Lightsaber, Mimir had called it earlier. Intruders. The officer's voice carried across the garrison. To arms. The blade ignited, red as blood, humming with contained fury. The officer moved with trained precision, assuming a combat stance that spoke of practice and discipline. But there was something else there too. Confidence. Arrogance born of believing himself superior. Kratos had killed confident men before. The blades of chaos answered his call, flames dancing along their lengths as he advanced. The officer's eyes widened behind his helmet. What manner weapon? Kratos didn't give him time to finish. The chains whirled, forcing the officer back. The lightsaber met chain and flame, and for a moment they seemed evenly matched, ancient divine fire against contained plasma. Then Kratos pulled on both chains, yanking the officer off balance. The man tried to use his force grip, that invisible hand reaching for Kratos' throat. But the Ghost of Sparta had felt it before, knew it was coming. He pushed through the pressure through sheer will, closing the distance even as his windpipe compressed. His forehead met the officer's helmet with a sound like a war drum. The man staggered, lightsaber wavering. Kratos didn't give him a chance to recover. A kick to the knee, a blade through the shoulder, a final chain wrapped around the throat. The officer fell unconscious or dead. Kratos didn't check. Behind them, the garrison doors burst open. Troopers poured out, weapons raised. Kratos stood in their path, the blades of chaos still burning, his scarred face expressionless in the firelight. Surrender, one trooper called. You're surrounded. Kratos looked at Atreus, who had his bow drawn, multiple arrows nocked and ready. The boy nodded, trust absolute despite their disagreements. Then Kratos looked back at the troopers. No, he said simply. You surrender. Or you die. Choose. For a long moment, nobody moved. 20 soldiers against 2. The odds should have been overwhelming. But something in Kratos' stance, in the way flames reflected off his pale skin and red tattoos, in the absolute certainty of his voice, it gave them pause. Then one trooper lowered his weapon. I don't want to die. Another followed. Then another. Within seconds, half the garrison had surrendered. The rest, those too loyal or too stupid, opened fire. The fight was brief, brutal, decisive. Kratos moved through them like the god of war he'd once been, the blades of chaos carving paths through armor and flesh. Atreus' arrows found gaps, dropped targets, controlled the battlefield from range. Together, they were unstoppable. When silence fell, only the living remained, those who had chosen surrender, now kneeling with hands behind their heads. Kratos stood among the bodies of their comrades, breathing steady, weapons lowered but ready. Bind them, he told Atreus. Caesarea can decide their fate. As his son moved to secure the prisoners, Kratos looked around at the garrison, at the imperial symbols on the walls, the propaganda posters showing that hooded emperor. Another empire. Another tyrant claiming to bring order through fear. He had destroyed 2 pantheons. What was one more empire? But even as the thought formed, Kratos pushed it away. This wasn't his fight. Couldn't be his fight. He had to protect Atreus, find a way home, avoid the trap of becoming someone else's weapon again. Yet as he watched his son work, saw the mercy in how Atreus treated even these soldiers, Kratos felt the familiar weight of choice settling on his shoulders. The boy would want to help these people, would see their suffering and demand action. And Kratos, for all his desire to stay uninvolved, had never been able to deny his son anything. The Force works in mysterious ways, brother, Mimir said quietly, bringing you here, of all places. A galaxy ruled by tyrants, crying out for someone strong enough to challenge them. You don't believe in fate, but even you have to admit, this is one hell of a coincidence. Kratos said nothing, but as he cleaned blood from his blades, he wondered if Mimir might be right. The galaxy was about to learn what happened when you tried to control a god killer. Caesaria's safe house was buried 3 levels deeper into Nar Shadda's industrial guts, accessible only through maintenance tunnels that reeked of coolant and decay. Kratos had to duck through doorways built for smaller beings, his presence making the already cramped space feel claustrophobic. Atreus followed, still processing what they'd done at the garrison. 15 dead, 8 surrendered, the Twi'lek said, reviewing data on a flickering holographic display. Efficient. Brutal. Exactly what I needed. She looked up at Kratos with calculating eyes. The merchants will sleep easier tonight, for whatever that's worth. You owe us information, Kratos said. No preamble. No politeness. Direct. I like that. Caesarea gestured to a table covered in data chips and what looked like star charts. What do you want to know first? The Empire's structure? The Force? Where you might find someone insane enough to believe your dimensional traveler story. Start with the Empire, Atreus said, moving closer to the table. If we're going to survive here, we need to understand what we're facing. Caesarea activated a hologram, a massive structure, thousands of systems connected by lines of control all converging on a single point. Coruscant, the label read. The Galactic Empire rose from the ashes of the Republic about 20 years ago. There was a war, the Clone Wars. At its end, Supreme Chancellor Palpatine revealed himself as a Sith Lord, declared himself Emperor, and systematically destroyed the Jedi Order. Her fingers traced through the hologram, highlighting key systems. Now he rules through fear. Star Destroyers enforce his will. Stormtroopers occupy worlds. And the Inquisitorius. She paused, looking at Kratos. Those Force users you fought? They're just the tip of the spear. This Sith, Kratos said. What is it? Dark side practitioners. A new voice spoke from the shadows. Kratos' hand went to his axe immediately, but Caesarea held up a calming hand. Easy. He's with me. A figure emerged. Human, older, wearing robes that had once been fine, but were now worn and patched. His eyes held the weight of loss, and when he moved, There was a fluidity that spoke of training. At his belt hung a cylindrical object, similar to what the Inquisitors carried, but deactivated. "This is Jaren Kell," Kessera said, former Jedi Knight, one of the few who survived Order 66. Jaren studied Kratos with the intensity of someone reading a text. "Kessera told me about you. Warriors from another dimension who can face Inquisitors and live. I had to see for myself." He stepped closer, and Kratos noticed how the man's hand trembled slightly, not from fear, but from restraint. "I can feel it around you. The Force, but wrong. Like it doesn't know what to make of you." "Explain," Kratos demanded. Jaren moved to the table, his hands hovering over the hologram. "The Force is an energy field created by all living things. It binds the galaxy together, connects every star, every planet, every being. Some people are more attuned to it, can sense it, manipulate it, draw power from it." His expression darkened. The Jedi served the light side, sought balance, peace, understanding. The Sith embraced the dark side, anger, hatred, passion. They believe power comes through domination. "We've met gods with similar philosophies," Mimir said dryly. "Usually ended with our boy here putting an axe through their skull." Jaren's eyes widened at the talking head, but he recovered quickly. "Your son," he said, looking at Atrus. "He's strong in the Force. Stronger than anyone I've sensed since the Purge. But it's raw, untrained, dangerous." "I don't need training," Atrus said, defensive. "I can control it. Can you?" Jaren's voice was gentle but firm. "The Force isn't a tool you pick up and put down. It's alive. If you don't learn to work with it, it will consume you. I've seen it happen. Good people, strong people, falling to the dark side because they thought they could master it through will alone." "My son masters himself," Kratos said, the warning clear in his tone. "I'm sure he does. But the Force tests everyone differently." Jaren activated another hologram, this one showing a hooded figure radiating dark energy. Emperor Palpatine, Darth Sidious, is the most powerful Sith Lord in generations. He orchestrated the fall of the Republic, manipulated a galaxy-spanning war, and destroyed the Jedi Order from within. He didn't do it through strength alone. Jaren's voice grew quiet. He did it through corruption, turning our greatest warriors into his servants, twisting their nobility into weapons. The hologram shifted, showing another figure, tall, imposing, encased in black armor and a mechanical breathing apparatus. The same warrior they'd encountered on Fonder, but this one radiated power that made the Inquisitor seem like a child. "Darth Vader," Jaren said, "the Emperor's enforcer. Once the greatest Jedi Knight, Anakin Skywalker. Now a monster who hunts down any surviving Jedi with ruthless efficiency." He looked at Kratos. "You killed an Inquisitor. Impressive. But Vader? He's broken entire battalions by himself, torn ships apart with the Force. If he learns about you, about your son, he will come." "Let him," Kratos said. "You don't understand." Jaren's frustration bled through his Jedi calm. "This isn't like fighting a god in your dimension. Here, the Force gives people power beyond physical strength. Vader can crush your throat from across a room, can sense your presence from orbit. Can die," Kratos interrupted. "Everything can die. I have made sure of this truth many times." Jaren opened his mouth to argue, then closed it. He studied Kratos for a long moment. "You really believe that?" "I know it." A silence stretched between them. Finally, Kessera cleared her throat. "As touching as this philosophical debate is, we have practical concerns. You wanted information about getting home. That's going to be complicated." She activated a new display, this one showing strange symbols and mathematical formulas that made Kratos's head ache to look at. "Hyperspace is the only form of faster-than-light travel we have. It works by accessing an alternate dimension, but it's predictable, controlled by known physics. What you're describing, traveling between entirely separate realities, that's theoretical at best." "There must be someone," Atrus said. "Some scientist or Force user who's studied dimensional anomalies." "There might be." Kessera pulled up another file. There's a legend about a group called the Bendu, Force users who walked between light and dark, who supposedly could perceive other realities. But they vanished thousands of years ago. Their temples are ruins scattered across the galaxy. Ruins can be explored, Kratos said. Not easily. Most are in Imperial space, heavily monitored. And even if you reached one, there's no guarantee you'd find anything useful. Cassera leaned back. Your other option is to find someone with advanced knowledge of hyperspace mechanics. Maybe a scientist who's studied anomalies. But the Empire tends to recruit or eliminate anyone that brilliant. What about the rebellion? Atreus asked. You mentioned them before. People fighting against the Empire. They might help us. Jaren laughed, bitter, exhausted. The rebellion is barely holding together. A few scattered cells, no central leadership, constantly on the run. They're fighting for survival, not helping dimensional travelers. But they're fighting, Atreus pressed. That means they have resources. Ships. Safe houses. Maybe even scientists. And why would they help you? Cassera asked. What do you offer them? Atreus looked at his father. We offer what we're good at. Fighting. You saw what we did to that garrison. Imagine what we could do to an Imperial installation. Or a Star Destroyer. No. Kratos' voice cut through the room like a blade. We are not mercenaries for another cause. We find our own way home. Father, these people are suffering. As people suffer everywhere. Kratos' patience, never abundant, was fraying. In every realm, every timeline, every dimension. We cannot save them all. We tried that in our own world, and look where it brought us. It brought us here, Atreus shot back. Maybe for a reason. There is no reason. No grand design. Kratos moved closer to his son, his voice lowering but losing none of its intensity. We survive. We return home. That is all. Is it? Atreus' eyes held challenge now. Or are you afraid? Afraid that if we help them, if we get involved, you'll become what you were. The monster everyone feared. The words struck deeper than any blade. Kratos felt them lodge in his chest, reopening wounds he'd thought healed. The Ghost of Sparta, the God of War, the Butcher of Olympus. All the names he tried to bury under better choices, under being a father. I am afraid, he said quietly, of losing you. Everything else can burn. But I'm not a child anymore. Atreus' voice softened, but remained firm. I can make my own choices, and I choose to help them, with or without you. Before Kratos could respond, alarms blared throughout the safe house. Cassera cursed, pulling up security feeds. The holographic displays showed Imperial troops, dozens of them, converging on their location from multiple directions. How did they find us? She demanded. Jaren's face had gone pale. They didn't. They found him. He pointed at Kratos. I told you. The Force is reacting to your presence like a wound in reality. Every Force sensitive in the sector can feel it. They don't know what you are, but they know something is wrong. The garrison survivors, Atreus realized. They must have reported what happened. Described us. More than that. Jaren was already moving toward the exit. That Inquisitor you knocked unconscious on Fonder? He'll have given your description to Vader himself. And if Vader is interested. He didn't finish the thought. Kratos grabbed the Leviathan axe, checking its edge. The familiar weight brought clarity. How many troops? 40, maybe 50. Cassera was frantically erasing data, destroying evidence. Plus at least 2 Inquisitors. We're trapped. There's always a way out. Kratos looked at the ceiling, noting the support structures, the maintenance access points. Atreus. Above us. What do you sense? His son closed his eyes, reaching out with that Force connection. A cooling shaft. Leads up 3 levels to an open platform. But father, it's a vertical climb. 50 meters through a narrow tube. Then we climb. Kratos turned to Cassera and Jaren. You have another exit? Several, Cassera confirmed. We'll lead them away, buy you time. Why? Kratos asked. Why help us? Jaren smiled, sad, knowing. Because the Force brought you here for a reason, whether you believe it or not. And because he looked at Atreus. Because that boy has the potential to change everything. I can feel it. If the Emperor gets his hands on him, twists him the way he twisted Anakin. He shook his head. I won't let that happen again. The first explosions rocked the safe house. Imperial breaching charges, tearing through walls with surgical precision. Kratos heard shouted orders, the mechanical precision of stormtroopers forming assault formations. Go. Caesarea pushed them toward a panel in the ceiling. Now, Atreus jumped, caught the edge, and pulled himself up into the shaft. Kratos followed, his bulk barely fitting through the opening. Behind them, the sounds of battle erupted, blaster fire. Jaren's lightsaber igniting with its distinctive snap hiss, Caesaria's defiant shout. The shaft was dark, slick with condensation. Kratos climbed hand over hand, his strength making the vertical ascent possible where it would have been impossible for most. Above him, Atreus moved with the agility of youth, already 2 body lengths ahead. Then Kratos felt it, a presence. Not physical, but undeniable. Something vast and cold, pressing against his mind like an avalanche about to fall. His grip faltered for just a moment. Father. Atreus called down. Keep climbing. Kratos pushed against the presence, the same way he'd pushed through the force grip before, through pure stubborn will. Faster. They emerged onto the platform gasping, their clothes soaked with condensation and worse. The NAR shadow air, polluted and thick, had never tasted sweeter. Around them, the city continued its oblivious chaos, millions of beings unaware that anything significant had happened. Atreus started toward the edge, but Kratos grabbed his shoulder. Wait. Below, at the entrance to the maintenance shaft, a figure appeared. Not stormtroopers. Not even an inquisitor. This was something else. Massive, encased in black armor that reflected the neon lights like obsidian. The mechanical breathing was audible even from this distance, rhythmic and ominous. Darth Vader had arrived. The Dark Lord looked up, and even across the distance, Kratos felt those eyes lock onto him, felt the weight of power, not divine, not like the gods he'd fought, but vast nonetheless. The Force coiled around Vader like a living thing, hungry and patient. For a long moment, they stared at each other. God-Killer and Dark Lord. 2 warriors who had destroyed everything they loved and rebuilt themselves from the ashes. Then Vader raised one hand, and the platform beneath Kratos' feet began to groan. Metal twisted. Support beams screamed. The entire structure was being crushed by invisible force. Run. Kratos shoved Atreus toward a gap between buildings. The boy didn't argue, taking off at full sprint. Kratos followed, and behind them, the platform collapsed inward like a closing fist. They ran through NAR Shada streets, pursued by something that didn't need to run, something that could hunt them through the Force itself, tracking their presence across any distance. As they disappeared into the crowd, Kratos made a decision. They needed help, needed allies, needed to understand this galaxy and its powers if they were to survive. The rebellion. Jaren had said they were scattered, desperate. That meant they would take any advantage they could get. And Kratos was about to become their most dangerous weapon, whether he wanted to or not. The stolen freighter shuddered as it dropped from hyperspace, its systems barely holding together after 3 days of hard running. Kratos stood in the cockpit, watching another unfamiliar star system materialize through the viewport. Atreus sat at the controls, exhaustion evident in the set of his shoulders. Yavin 4, Atreus read from the navigation display. Caesaria's final gift before. He didn't finish. They'd heard the reports 2 days ago. Imperial forces had raised 3 entire levels of NAR Shada, hunting for the dimensional anomalies. Caesarea and Jaren were listed among the casualties. More names added to a list that stretched back centuries. More deaths caused by Kratos' presence. Do not carry their weight, he said quietly, knowing his son's thoughts. They made their choice. Did they? Atreus turned in his seat, red-rimmed eyes meeting his father's. Or did we make it for them when we showed up, when we drew Vader's attention? Kratos had no answer for that. Instead, he looked at the jungle moon below, lush green, vibrant with life that stood in stark contrast to Nar Shadda's industrial decay. Somewhere in that wilderness, according to Kessera's intelligence, the rebellion maintained a hidden base. There, Atrus pointed to sensor readings. Energy signatures. Small, shielded, but consistent with a military installation. His fingers danced across controls with increasing confidence. After days of flying, the boy had become proficient with the ship's systems. That force connection making intuitive leaps that should have taken weeks to learn. It worried Kratos. Every new ability, every deeper connection to this galaxy's power, was another thread tying Atrus to a place they didn't belong. The freighter descended through thick atmosphere, autopilot, guiding them toward coordinates Kessera had provided. As they broke through the canopy, massive stone temples emerged, ancient, overgrown, repurposed by the rebellion into hangars and command centers. Ships of various makes sat in concealed bays. Personnel moved with military precision between structures. And weapons, dozens of them, tracked the freighter's descent. Unidentified vessel. You are entering restricted airspace. The voice over the comm was professional, controlled. Transmit identification codes or be fired upon. Atrus glanced at Kratos, who nodded. The boy activated the comm. We don't have proper codes. We're here to speak with whoever leads the rebellion. We have information about Imperial movements. And he hesitated. We want to help. Silence stretched. Kratos' hand moved to the Leviathan axe, ready for betrayal. Then, land in Bay 7. Power down all weapon systems. Exit with hands visible. Any deviation and you'll be vaporized. Understood. Understood, Atrus confirmed. The landing was smooth. Atrus had gotten good at that too. As the engines cycled down, Kratos saw figures emerging from the temple shadows. Rebel soldiers, their equipment mismatched, but well-maintained. Behind them, someone in an officer's uniform approached, flanked by two others whose bearing suggested command authority. Leave your weapons, Atrus said. No. Kratos' tone allowed no argument. We enter as we are, or not at all. They descended the ramp, Kratos with the Leviathan axe visible on his back, blades of chaos at his hips. Atrus carried his bow openly. Mimir remained attached to Kratos' belt, his eyes taking in everything with keen interest. The rebel soldiers tensed, weapons rising. But the officer, a woman with general's insignia and eyes that had seen too many battles, raised a hand to hold fire. Stand down. She stepped forward, studying Kratos with the intensity of someone cataloging threats. I'm General Draven, Alliance Intelligence. You claim to have information about Imperial movements. We have more than that, Atrus said. We have experience fighting them, winning against them. Draven's expression didn't change. Bold claim. Every smuggler and bounty hunter who wanders in here makes similar promises. Her eyes moved to Kratos. Though I'll admit, you don't look like the usual opportunists. We are not opportunists, Kratos said. We are the dimensional travelers. A new voice interrupted, younger, male, carrying authority despite evident youth. A man emerged from behind Draven, wearing pilot's gear, his bearing confident but not arrogant. Beside him walked two others, a princess in white robes whose eyes held steel behind their beauty, and a Wookiee whose massive frame almost matched Kratos' own height. Luke Skywalker, the young man introduced himself, extending a hand. Kratos stared at it until Luke awkwardly withdrew. We received a coded message from the Nar Shadda network before the Empire destroyed it. They said to watch for a warrior marked with red, traveling with a boy strong in the Force. Jaren, Atrus breathed. He must have gotten word out before. Before he died holding off 3 Inquisitors to buy civilians time to escape, Luke finished. His expression grew somber. He was a good man. One of the few Jedi who helped us without asking for anything in return. He looked at Atrus with sudden intensity. He also said you might be the most powerful Force-sensitive he'd ever encountered. Untrained, raw, but with potential that scared him. The boy is not a weapon, Kratos said flatly. No one's saying he is. The princess spoke now, her voice carrying diplomatic weight. I'm Leia Organa. If you truly want to help the rebellion, we need to understand who you are and what you're capable of. She gestured toward the temple. Can we speak somewhere less exposed? Kratos assessed the situation. They were surrounded, outgunned if it came to violence. But these people didn't carry the same corrupt aura as the Empire. Their weapons were raised from caution, not cruelty. And Jaren had trusted them enough to send a final message. Lead, he said. The temple's interior was a strange fusion of ancient architecture and modern technology. Monitoring equipment lined walls carved with forgotten history. Holographic displays showed star systems and Imperial fleet movements. This was a rebellion built from scraps and desperation, but no less dangerous for it. They gathered in what had once been a meditation chamber, now a strategy room. Draven, Luke, Leia, and several other officers formed a semicircle. The Wookiee Chewbacca, Luke had called him, stood near the door, arms crossed, watching Kratos with wary respect. Start from the beginning, Draven said. The real beginning. So Kratos told them. Not everything. Some truths were his alone to carry, but enough. The 9 realms. Ragnarok. The rupture that had torn them from their world and deposited them in a galaxy ruled by an empire they didn't understand. His voice remained flat, factual, giving no more emotion than necessary. When he finished, silence filled the chamber. Several officers looked skeptical. Draven's expression remained neutral. But Luke leaned forward, eyes bright with something between wonder and understanding. The Force, he said quietly. You're saying in your dimension, there are gods. Real, physical gods with power over reality. And you, he looked at Kratos. You killed them. Yes. Why? The question was simple. The answer was anything but. Kratos felt the weight of Olympus's ashes, the screams of those he'd failed to save, the blood that would never wash clean. Because they deserved it, he said finally. Luke nodded slowly, as if that answer satisfied something. And now you want to go home. But you're willing to help us fight the Empire in exchange for assistance. We need allies, Atreus said. Resources. Information. The Empire has marked us as threats. We've already fought their Inquisitors and escaped Darth Vader once. Whether we want this fight or not, it's coming for us. Vader. Draven's eyes sharpened. You've encountered Lord Vader and survived. Escaped, Kratos corrected. Not defeated. The distinction matters. It does indeed. Draven exchanged glances with Leia. Some unspoken communication passed between them. The Alliance is in a precarious position. We've had recent victories, the Death Star's destruction chief among them, but the Empire's response has been brutal. They're hunting our operatives across the galaxy, tightening their grip on neutral systems. We need every advantage we can get. We're not soldiers, Atreus said. Not the way you mean. No, Leia agreed, studying them both. You're something else entirely. A warrior who can face Force users in combat and win. A boy with untapped potential that makes our few remaining Jedi allies nervous. She leaned back. The question is whether you're an asset or a liability. Test us, Kratos said. Give us a mission. We succeed, you help us find a way home. We fail. He shrugged. Then the problem resolves itself. Draven smiled, thin, calculating. Direct. I appreciate that. She activated a holographic display, showing a heavily fortified Imperial facility on an ice world. This is an Imperial research station on Hoth. Intelligence suggests they're developing new weapons, possibly anti-force technology. We need someone to infiltrate, gather data, and extract a captured rebel operative before he's transferred to a Star Destroyer. You're asking us to be spies, Atreus said. I'm asking you to prove you're as capable as Jaren believed. Draven's eyes held challenge. Infiltration, combat, extraction. If you can handle this, we'll dedicate resources to helping you find a way home. Scientists, researchers, access to our intelligence networks. But we need to know you're worth the investment. Kratos looked at the hologram, cataloging defenses, guard rotations, potential entry points. It was a trap, not from rebels, but from the situation itself. Accept, and they were committing to this fight, entangling themselves deeper in a war that wasn't theirs. Refuse, and they were alone in a hostile galaxy with the full might of the Empire hunting them. Father. Atrus's voice carried question, not demand, waiting for Kratos' decision while making clear he had his own opinions. The Ghost of Sparta had spent lifetimes trying to escape cycles of violence, had sworn to be better, to choose differently. But standing here, surrounded by people fighting impossible odds against tyranny, he recognized something familiar. Not in the cause, he cared nothing for their rebellion, but in their eyes. The same determination he'd seen in Spartans defending their home. The same desperate hope he'd glimpsed in freed slaves. The same refusal to submit that had defined his own existence. We go to Hoth, he said. We complete your mission. Then you honor your word. Agreed. Draven extended her hand again. This time Kratos took it. Her grip was firm, professional. There's one more thing. Your son, Atrus. Luke would like to work with him. Not train him as a Jedi, she added quickly, seeing Kratos tense. But teach him basics. Control. Understanding. The Force is dangerous when wielded by someone who doesn't understand it. No. Kratos' response was immediate. Father, maybe I should. No Jedi will touch you, Kratos said, his voice carrying finality. I have seen what happens when others try to shape you for their purposes. It ends in manipulation, in control. I wouldn't try to control him, Luke said earnestly. I'm barely trained myself. I know what it's like to have this power and not understand it. To be afraid you'll hurt someone you love because you can't control what you feel. His eyes met Atrus's. Jaren said you're strong. Stronger than me, probably. That kind of power without discipline. He trailed off, the implication clear. Atrus looked between Luke and Kratos, conflict evident in his features. Finally, he turned to his father. What if he's right? What if I hurt someone because I didn't learn control? You have control, Kratos said. You have always had control. But the Force is different than anything we faced at home. Atrus's voice held pleading now. Please, Father, just let him show me the basics. How to shield my presence so the Empire can't track me. How to not accidentally crush someone's throat when I'm angry. The last part was spoken with such raw honesty that Kratos felt it like a blade. His son was afraid, not of the Empire, not of danger, but of becoming something he couldn't control, of hurting innocents the way Kratos himself had once done. One lesson, Kratos conceded, hating every word. Under my supervision, any attempt at manipulation, and it ends. Luke nodded, relief evident. Thank you. I promise, I'm not trying to recruit him or turn him into anything. I just want to help. Everyone wants to help, Kratos said quietly, his hand resting on the Leviathan axe. That is how chains are forged. But even as he spoke, he knew the choice was made. They were committed now. The rebellion would use them, the Empire would hunt them, and somewhere in the chaos, they would have to find a way home before this galaxy consumed them both. The Ghost of Sparta had tried to walk away from war. But war, it seemed, would always find him. The ice planet Hoth was a frozen hell that reminded Kratos of Jotunheim, all bitter wind and killing cold. But where the realm of giants had possessed a savage beauty, this world felt merely hostile, empty, a place where nothing should live. Yet the Empire had built its research station deep into a glacier's heart. Kratos crouched behind an ice ridge, watching the facility through the blizzard. Beside him, Atrus adjusted his thermal gear, Rebel issue, designed for this climate. 3 days had passed since Yavin 4. 3 days of preparation, planning, and one tense lesson where Luke had taught Atrus to quiet his Force presence. Kratos had watched every moment, hand never far from his weapons. Guard patrols every 15 minutes, Atrus whispered, his breath misting. Sensor towers at each corner. The prisoner is held in the sub-level detention block. He closed his eyes, reaching out with that Force sense. I can feel him. Weak. Hurt. But alive. How many guards? Kratos asked. 20 outside. maybe 40 inside. And Atrus's expression tightened. Something else. Something cold. Not like the ice. Like absence. Kratos knew that feeling. Had felt it when facing the most twisted of Olympus's monsters. Death. Or close to it. Atrus opened his eyes. An inquisitor maybe. Or worse. Doesn't matter. Kratos rose, the Leviathan axe already in hand. Frost formed along its blade, feeding on the ambient cold. We go in. We take what we came for. We leave. They moved across the ice field like shadows. Kratos' bulk somehow silent despite his size, Atrus flowing beside him with practiced grace. The first sensor tower never detected them. Kratos had learned these devices relied on heat signatures and motion detection. Simple technology compared to the magical wards of the realms. The Leviathan axe flew, its blade severing the tower's power conduit. Ice spread from the impact point, freezing the electronics before they could send warnings. Kratos recalled the weapon with an outstretched hand, catching it smoothly. 2 more towers fell the same way. Then they were at the facility's service entrance, a maintenance hatch built into the glacier itself, locked with Imperial codes. Atrus placed his palm against the lock. Kratos saw concentration furrow his son's brow, saw that force energy pulse outward. The lock clicked open. Useful, Mimir observed from Kratos' belt. Though I'm still not comfortable with the boy using magic that comes from this galaxy. It's like drinking from a poisoned well, might quench your thirst, but you don't know what else you're taking in. I'm fine, Atrus insisted. But Kratos noticed the slight tremor in his son's hand. Using the force took effort, drained something. Another reason to be wary of it. Inside, the facility was all sterile corridors and humming machinery. Emergency lighting cast everything in red. Kratos moved forward, following Atrus's directions, the boy sensing their path through that connection to life that the force provided. They encountered the first patrol at a junction. 6 stormtroopers, their white armor stark against the facility's gray walls. Kratos didn't slow. The blades of chaos materialized in his hands, flames roaring to life in the recycled air. The fight was over in seconds. Kratos' chains wrapped around weapons, yanked soldiers off balance, delivered killing strikes before they could call for help. Atrus covered him with arrows, each shot precise, disabling rather than killing when possible. When silence returned, 6 bodies lay cooling on the floor. Security will notice soon, Atrus said, already moving. We need to hurry. They descended through the facility, past laboratories filled with equipment Kratos didn't understand, past holding cells containing frozen specimens of creatures he had no names for. This was a place of experimentation, of pushing boundaries. The Empire, it seemed, was trying to master things beyond conventional warfare. Brother, Mimir said quietly. Look at that. Through a transparent steel window, Kratos saw a massive chamber. In its center, suspended in some kind of stasis field, floated what looked like a kyber crystal. But wrong. Corrupted. Black veins ran through its structure, and the air around it seemed to shimmer with dark energy. Synthetic kyber, Atrus read from a nearby console. They're trying to create artificial force-sensitive crystals to power weapons that can... Father, this says it can disrupt force abilities, make force users powerless. Anti-god weapons, Kratos said, understanding immediately. Olympus had tried something similar once, weapons specifically designed to kill immortals. They'd failed, but the attempt had still caused untold suffering. Destroy it. But the data. Destroy. Kratos' tone allowed no argument. Some weapons should never exist. Atrus hesitated, then nodded. He raised his bow, knocked an explosive arrow, rebel technology combined with his own enhancements. The shot flew true, punching through the transparent steel. The stasis field collapsed. The corrupted crystal scream was audible even through the vacuum. It shattered, releasing energy that tore through the chamber like a shockwave. Alarms immediately blared throughout the facility. Subtle, brother, Mimir said dryly. We have minutes now, Atrus said. Maybe less. The prisoner. This way. Kratos was already moving, following the facility's layout toward the detention block. Behind them, they heard shouts, running feet. The Empire was mobilizing. The detention block was 2 levels down, accessible through a blast door that Atreus struggled to open. As his son worked, Kratos heard something else. Footsteps. Measured. Deliberate. And that presence, the cold absence Atreus had sensed earlier, was getting closer. Faster, Kratos said. I'm trying. Sweat beaded on Atreus's forehead despite the cold. The lock is different. More complex. The blast door behind them opened. Through it stepped a figure that made even Kratos pause. Not human. Whatever species this was, it was tall, gaunt, with gray skin and eyes that held nothing but hunger. It wore Inquisitor armor, but the aura around it was different. Older. More refined. Dimensional anomalies, the creature said, its voice like grinding stones. So the reports were true. I am the 9th brother. And you? Those dead eyes fixed on Kratos. You stink of death. Of gods murdered. How delicious. 2 lightsabers ignited in the Inquisitor's hands, both blades spinning, creating a wheel of crimson light. The 9th brother moved forward with predatory grace. Atreus, Kratos said calmly. The door. Almost. The Inquisitor attacked. Those spinning blades came at Kratos in a pattern designed to overwhelm, to find gaps in defense through sheer speed. But the Ghost of Sparta had fought faster opponents, had dueled gods whose reflexes transcended mortal perception. The Leviathan axe came up, meeting the lightsaber mid-spin. The clash sent sparks flying, ancient dwarf-forged metal against plasma technology. Neither yielded. Kratos pushed, his strength forcing the Inquisitor back a step. Impossible, the 9th brother hissed. No material should withstand. Kratos didn't let him finish. He released the axe with one hand, letting it hold the lightsaber at bay while his other hand shot forward. His fist caught the Inquisitor in the ribs, not a killing blow, but enough to crack something. The creature stumbled. Got it. Atreus shouted behind him. The detention door slid open. Kratos recalled the axe and threw it in one smooth motion. The Leviathan spun past the Inquisitor, who dodged, and embedded itself in the wall behind him, sealing the corridor with ice that spread from floor to ceiling. Go. Kratos shoved Atreus through the detention door, following and triggering the emergency lock. Through the transparasteel, he watched the 9th brother begin cutting through the ice wall with his lightsabers. It would take time. Not much, but enough. The detention block held a single prisoner, a human male, mid-40s, bearing the scars of interrogation. He looked up as they entered, surprise evident in his bruised features. Who? Rebel extraction, Atreus said, moving to free him from the restraints. Captain Varys? That's me. But I didn't think. The Alliance actually sent someone. Varys stared at Kratos, taking in the red markings, the ancient weapons. What the hell are you? Your way out, Kratos said. Behind them, the 9th brother was halfway through the ice. Can you walk? Do I have a choice? No. They ran. Through corridors, now full of stormtroopers, responding to the breach. Kratos led, the blades of chaos clearing their path with brutal efficiency. Atreus and Varys followed, the boy supporting the injured captain when his legs faltered. The hangar, Varys gasped. There's a shuttle code-locked, but I can fly it if we reach it. Direction, Kratos demanded. Up 2 levels, West Wing. They ascended through service stairs, emerged into a corridor filled with soldiers. Too many to fight through quickly. Kratos felt time compressing, felt the trap closing. Behind them, that cold presence was breaking through, coming closer. Father. Atreus's voice held understanding. Go. I'll hold them. No. I can do this. Atreus knocked multiple arrows, his bow thrumming with stored energy. Trust me. Like I trust you. Kratos wanted to refuse, wanted to throw his son over his shoulder and fight through anyway. But he saw the determination in Atreus's eyes, the same fire that had carried them through Ragnarok. His son wasn't a child anymore, wasn't someone to be protected at all costs. He was a warrior in his own right, 1 minute, Kratos said. Then you follow. Understood. Understood. Kratos grabbed Varys and ran, leaving his son to face 20 stormtroopers alone. Every instinct screamed at him to turn back. But he taught Atreus to fight, had shown him survival. Now he had to trust those lessons. Behind him, he heard the first volley of arrows release, heard shocked cries as Atreus' shots found their marks with impossible accuracy. Then something else, a low hum that made the air itself vibrate. What was that? Varys asked. Kratos knew. His son was using the Force. Not subtly, not quietly, but with the raw power that Jaren had sensed, amplified by desperation and need. The stormtrooper's blaster fire stopped. Then came screams, not of pain, but of terror. They reached the hangar. A small Imperial shuttle sat ready, its boarding ramp down. Varys staggered toward it, already inputting codes. Kratos turned back, axe in hand, waiting. Atreus appeared at the corridor entrance. The boy was breathing hard, his eyes carrying something new, a wildness that reminded Kratos too much of his own Spartan rage. Behind Atreus, the corridor was a disaster. Troopers pinned to walls by invisible force. Others unconscious, thrown with such violence they'd crack their armor. And at the far end, emerging through the carnage, the ninth brother advanced with terrible purpose. Run! Kratos roared. Atreus sprinted. The Inquisitor raised a hand, and Kratos felt that force grip reach for his son. Without thinking, he threw the Leviathan axe. The weapon flew true, its frost trail beautiful and deadly. It didn't strike the Inquisitor. Instead, it embedded itself between them, and the ice that exploded outward disrupted whatever connection the force required. Atreus stumbled onto the shuttle. Kratos followed, recalling his axe as the boarding ramp began to close. Through the narrowing gap, he saw the ninth brother standing at the hangar entrance, lightsabers deactivated, watching them escape with something like satisfaction. It's done, the Inquisitor called. You've shown your power, demonstrated your worth. Lord Vader will be most interested in our report. The ramp sealed. The shuttle lurched upward, its engine straining. Through the viewport, Kratos watched the research facility grow smaller, watched as TIE fighters began launching to pursue. Hold on. Varys shouted from the pilot's seat. This is going to be rough. The shuttle jumped to hyperspace, leaving Hoth behind. In the streaking lights, Kratos saw his son's reflection in the transparisteel. Atreus was staring at his hands, trembling. Father, he whispered, when I used the Force back there, I felt it. The anger, the fear, the dark side trying to pull me in. He looked up, eyes wide. It wanted me to kill them. All of them. And for a moment, I wanted to. Kratos knelt beside his son, placed a hand on his shoulder. But you didn't. That is what matters. Not the temptation, but the choice. Luke warned me about this, about how easy it is to fall. Then we will be more careful. Kratos' grip tightened slightly. The power is a tool. Tools do not control us. We control them. But even as he spoke the words, Kratos wondered if he believed them. He'd seen what power did to people, had been twisted by it himself. And now his son, his boy, was being offered that same poison gift. We got what we came for, Varys said from the cockpit, relief in his voice. Captain Varys, delivered safe. The Alliance owes you. They owe us answers, Kratos corrected. About dimensional travel. About getting home. About that. Varys hesitated. I overheard things during interrogation. The Empire is hunting for something. Ancient Jedi archives. Sith holocrons. Knowledge about the Force that even Palpatine doesn't fully understand. He looked back at them. If you want to find a way between dimensions, that knowledge might be your best chance. Where? Atreus asked. Tython, the birthplace of the Jedi Order. There's a temple there, sealed, forgotten. But the Empire believes it contains secrets from when the Order first discovered how to sense other realities. Kratos exchanged glances with Mimir. The severed head's expression was thoughtful. Sounds like a lead, brother. Though I'm betting the Empire isn't the only one interested in that temple. We investigate, Kratos decided. After we return to Yavin. After we ensure this one reaches safety. He gestured at Varys. As hyperspace streaked past, Kratos felt the threads of fate, or the Force, or whatever power governed this galaxy, tightening around them. They'd proven themselves to the rebellion. But in doing so, they'd also revealed their capabilities to the Empire. The hunt would intensify now. Vader would come. And when he did, Kratos would have to face the question he'd been avoiding. Could a god killer defeat a Dark Lord of the Sith? Only one way to find out. Yavin 4's jungle was alive with sound when they returned. Creatures calling through humid air, ancient stone breathing with life that had nothing to do with the rebellion's presence. Kratos stood in the temple's war room, watching holographic displays cycle through intelligence reports. 3 weeks had passed since off. 3 weeks of small missions, of proving their worth to the Alliance. 3 weeks of Atreus growing stronger in the Force with every passing day. It worried him. The Emperor has increased Inquisitor deployments across 12 sectors, Draven was saying, her fingers manipulating the hologram. They're not hunting general Force sensitives anymore. They're hunting specifically for you. She looked at Kratos. Whatever you did on Hoth, it got their attention. We survived, Kratos said. That is enough to anger tyrants. It's more than that. Luke stood nearby, his expression troubled. I can feel it through the Force. There's anticipation, like something big is coming. He glanced at Atreus, who stood apart from a group, staring out at the jungle. How's he doing? He trains, Kratos said, the words carrying more weight than they should. Every day. Sometimes at night when he thinks I'm sleeping. Luke nodded slowly. The Force calls to him. It's natural. He's incredibly powerful. But that power, he hesitated. I've seen what happens when someone strong embraces the dark side too quickly. When they let anger and fear guide them. My son is not Vader, Kratos said flatly. I know. But Vader was once Anakin Skywalker, the best of us. If it could happen to him. Luke trailed off, seeing Kratos' expression darken. I'm not saying Atreus will fall. I'm saying we need to be careful. The Emperor would love to twist someone with his potential. Before Kratos could respond, alarms blared throughout the temple. Rebels scrambled to stations, pulling up sensor data that made Draven curse. Imperial Star Destroyer dropping from hyperspace. No, wait, 3-star destroyers. She pulled up visual feeds. And a Superstar Destroyer. That's the Executor, Leia finished, her face pale. Vader's flagship. The room fell silent. Through the viewport, Kratos saw massive ships materializing in orbit, triangular behemoths bristling with weapons. And above them, dwarfing them, a ship so large it blocked out stars. The Superstar Destroyer hung in space like a dagger pointed at the moon's heart. He found us, someone whispered. Evacuation protocols. Draven ordered immediately. All personnel to transports. We have maybe 20 minutes before they're in bombardment range. Chaos erupted. Rebels running in controlled panic, loading ships, destroying sensitive data. Kratos watched it all with the detachment of someone who had seen civilizations fall before. But Atreus, his son, moved to the viewport, staring up at that massive ship with something between fear and fascination. He's here for us, Atreus said quietly. Vader. I can feel him, like a black hole, pulling everything toward it. Then we leave, Kratos said. We take a ship. To where? Atreus turned, and his eyes held a hardness that reminded Kratos uncomfortably of himself. He'll just follow. Track us across the galaxy. Everyone we meet, everyone who helps us, they'll die because of us. He looked at Luke. How many rebels are here? 200? 3. 247, Luke confirmed. And how many will die if we run? If Vader has to chase us while his fleet destroys this base? Atreus' hands clenched. We have to face him. Now. Before more people suffer because of us. No. Kratos' voice carried absolute authority. We do not trade your life for theirs. I'm not saying die, Father. I'm saying fight. Atreus moved closer, that Force presence radiating from him like heat. You've killed gods. Vader is just a man in a suit. Powerful? Yes. Dangerous? Yes. But mortal. And mortals can be beaten. You don't understand what you're asking, Luke interjected. Vader isn't just powerful in the Force. He's a tactical genius, a master duelist, and he survived everything the galaxy has thrown at him for 20 years. Even if you could match him in combat, and that's a big if, he won't come alone. He won't need to. The voice came from the doorway. Everyone turned to see a figure in robes hood drawn, but radiating authority that made even Draven defer. The figure lowered their hood, revealing an older woman with kind eyes and steel beneath. I'm Mon Mothma, leader of the Rebel Alliance, and I need to speak with these warriors. Alone. Draven started to protest, but Mon Mothma's look silenced her. The room cleared, leaving only Kratos, Atreus, and the rebel leader. You don't know me, Mon Mothma said, moving to the viewport. But I know what it means to carry weight you never asked for. To have people die because of choices you make. She looked at Kratos. You're right to want to protect your son. But he's also right that running will only delay the inevitable. What do you want? Kratos asked. I want to offer you a choice. She activated a small holographic projector, showing coordinates. Tython, the temple Captain Varys told you about. We've confirmed it exists, ancient, sealed, possibly containing knowledge about dimensional rifts. Our best analysts say if there's any way to send you home, the answers are there. And the price. Kratos knew there was always a price. No price. Just reality. Mon Mothma's expression was grave. Vader is here because of you. If you leave now, take one of our fastest ships. You might reach Tython before he can intercept. The rebellion will buy you time. Evacuate, scatter. Make him chase us instead of you. You would sacrifice this base? Atreus asked. All these resources? We've done it before. We'll do it again. Mon Mothma smiled sadly. The rebellion survives because we're willing to lose battles to win the war. But she hesitated. There's another option. Speak it, Kratos said. Vader wants you. Specifically. He's obsessed. Our intelligence says he's been studying every report about the God Killer and his Force-sensitive son. If you were to engage him, draw his attention while we evacuate, it would save hundreds of lives. You want us to be bait, Atreus said. I want to give you the choice. Run for Tython now and possibly find your way home. Or buy us time and become legends the rebellion will never forget. Mon Mothma's eyes moved between them. I won't lie, fighting Vader is likely suicide. But if anyone could survive it. She didn't finish. Didn't need to. The implication hung in the air like smoke. Kratos looked at his son, saw the conflict there, the desire to help, to save, warring with the desire to survive. Once, Kratos would have made the choice himself, would have grabbed Atreus and run without looking back. But he'd learned painfully that his son needed agency, needed to be part of these decisions. What do you want to do? He asked Atreus. I want to help them, Atreus said immediately. Then quieter. But I'm afraid. Vader. Father. When I sense him, it's like staring into an abyss. Everything I've learned about the Force, all that power, it feels like nothing compared to what he carries. Fear is wisdom, Kratos said. It tells you when threats are real, but it should not control you. What would you do? If you were alone, Kratos considered. I would run. Not from cowardice, but from strategy. Find answers at Tython, understand this galaxy better, then return stronger. He placed a hand on Atreus' shoulder. But we are not alone. We have each other. And that changes the equation. Does it change it enough to face Vader? I don't know. The admission felt like weakness, but it was honest. I have faced gods and won, but I have also lost, to Ares, to Zeus at first, to my own rage. Vader is unknown. That makes him dangerous. Mimir cleared his throat from Kratos' belt. If I might offer a thought, lads, there's a middle path. We could engage Vader briefly, test him, learn his capabilities, give the rebels time to evacuate, then retreat ourselves. Not a full battle, just a tactical engagement. Hit and run, Atreus said, understanding. Like we did with Modi and Magni before we were ready to face them fully. Exactly. Mimir's eyes gleamed. We're not trying to win. Just trying to buy time and gather intelligence. Save the real fight for when we understand what we're facing. Kratos turned to Mon Mothma. How long do you need? 30 minutes for a full evacuation. 20 if we leave some supplies behind. You will have 25, Kratos decided. Then we disengage and follow. Whether we reach Tython or Vader catches us. He shrugged. That is in the hands of fate. Or the Force, Atreus added. I do not acknowledge the difference. Mon Mothma bowed slightly, a gesture of respect that seemed foreign from someone of her station. The rebellion will not forget this. Whatever happens, you'll have our support, our resources, everything we can offer to help you find your way home. She left, already calling orders to her people. Kratos and Atreus stood alone in the war room, watching through the viewport as the evacuation began. Ships lifted off, disappearing into the jungle or fleeing toward space. Father, Atreus said quietly, thank you for letting me choose. You would have chosen anyway, Kratos said. I only acknowledged it. Still. Atreus checked his bow, his arrows. We're really doing this. Fighting Darth Vader. Testing Darth Vader, Kratos corrected. There is a difference. We learn his capabilities, his tactics. We do not commit to a battle we cannot win. And if he doesn't let us disengage, Kratos drew the Leviathan axe, feeling its weight, its balance. The weapon that had served him through Fimbulwinter and Ragnarok. Then we do what we always do. We survive. No matter the cost. They moved through the emptying temple, heading toward the main platform where ships were launching. But Kratos directed them differently, toward an open courtyard where ancient Massassi stone met jungle canopy. A place with no cover, no tactical advantage. A killing ground. Perfect for what they needed. He'll land here, Kratos said, studying the space. He wants confrontation. Wants to test us as much as we want to test him. So we give him the battlefield he expects. Atreus positioned himself at the courtyard's far end, finding high ground on a broken pillar. Sniper position. Support. Kratos took the center, the blades of chaos in his hands now, flames already beginning to dance along their lengths. Above, a shuttle detached from the Superstar Destroyer. Not a military vessel, something sleeker, more personal. It descended through atmosphere with deliberate slowness, as if its occupant had all the time in the world. The shuttle landed. The boarding ramp descended with hydraulic precision. And from the darkness, within emerged Darth Vader. He was larger than Kratos remembered, or perhaps the aura around him made him seem so. The black armor reflected nothing, absorbed light like a wound in reality. The mechanical breathing was rhythmic, ominous. The sound of a man kept alive by machines and the dark side itself. Vader walked forward, each step measured, until he stood 20 paces from Kratos. Those lenses emotionless, reflecting only death, fixed on the Ghost of Sparta. So, Vader's voice rumbled, distorted by his respirator. The God Killer stands before me at last. The warrior who has vexed my inquisitors and destroyed Imperial property. He tilted his head slightly. The reports did not do you justice. I have heard much about you as well, Kratos said. Fallen Jedi. The Emperor's weapon. Murderer of your own order. Murderer. Vader's breathing paused for one cycle, then resumed. No. Liberator. I freed myself from the Jedi's chains. From their lies about balance and peace. And I have grown stronger for it. He raised one hand, and Kratos felt that force grip begin to close around his throat. Now, I will show you what true power means. The grip tightened. Kratos felt his airway constrict, his vision beginning to narrow. But he'd felt this before, had pushed through it through sheer will on Fonder, on Nar Shaddaa. He would push through it again. Spartan rage ignited. The shockwave that erupted from Kratos shattered Vader's grip like glass. The Ghost of Sparta's eyes blazed white-hot as primal fury flooded his muscles, his movements, his very being. He closed the distance in a heartbeat, the blades of chaos whirling. Vader's lightsaber ignited, red as blood, humming with deadly promise. He met Kratos' assault with practiced efficiency, the blade deflecting chains and fire with precise economy of motion. But Kratos wasn't trying to kill. Not yet. He was testing, learning, cataloging. Vader was fast, not God fast, but enhanced by the Force and cybernetic augmentation. His strength was formidable, his technique refined through decades of combat. But there was something else too. Pain. Vader fought through constant agony, his broken body held together by machinery and hate. Pain could be exploited. Kratos fainted high, then swept low with a chain. Vader leaped, force-enhanced, flipping over the attack. While airborne, he gestured, and debris, chunks of ancient stone, tore free and hurtled toward Kratos. The Ghost of Sparta caught one, used it as a shield, then hurled it back. Vader sliced through it effortlessly, but the move had created an opening. Atrus's arrow flew true, striking Vader's shoulder joint. The shaft shattered against armor, but the impact staggered the Dark Lord. "The boy," Vader said, his gaze finding Atrus. So much potential, wasted on fear and light. He raised his hand toward Atrus. "Come, child. Let me show you what you could become." Kratos saw his son stumble, saw Atrus fighting against that invisible pull. Rage, not the Spartan kind, but a father's fury, surged through him. He threw the Leviathan axe. The weapon spun through air, forcing Vader to divert attention, to deflect with his lightsaber. The clash sent sparks cascading. In that moment, Kratos closed distance again, this time landing a kick that cracked armor plating. Vader grunted, the first sound of genuine reaction. He retaliated with force lightning, dark energy crackling from his fingertips. The electricity hit Kratos like Thor's thunder, lighting every nerve on fire. He'd felt pain before, torture from gods, wounds that would have killed lesser men. This was different, invasive, trying to unmake him from within. But Kratos had been unmade before. He knew how to pull himself back together. He pushed through the lightning, his hand closing around Vader's wrist. Metal crumpled under his grip. Warning lights flared on the Dark Lord's chest panel. "Impossible," Vader breathed. "Your strength, what are you?" "Your end," Kratos growled. "If you continue this path." They stood locked together, God Killer and Dark Lord, testing each other's limits. Around them, the last evacuation ships were lifting off. 25 minutes had passed. Time to disengage. Kratos released Vader and leaped back, recalling the Leviathan axe as he moved. Atrus. Now, his son was already running, heading for the ship they'd prepared. Kratos followed, but Vader pursued, rage finally bleeding through that mechanical control. You do not walk away from Darth Vader. The Dark Lord reached out with both hands, and the Force itself seemed to bend to his will. Kratos felt himself slow, felt invisible hands pulling him back. But then Atrus was there, his own Force presence flaring like a star. The two powers clashed, dark and not light. Something else. Something wild and primal that had nothing to do with Jedi philosophy. Vader's grip faltered, just for a moment. They reached the ship, lifted off. As they climbed toward space, Kratos looked back through the viewport. Vader stood in the courtyard, watching them escape, his lightsaber finally deactivating. They had survived, had tested the Dark Lord and learned valuable truths. But as hyperspace swallowed them, carrying them toward Tython and whatever answers waited there, Kratos knew one thing with certainty. The next time they faced Vader, it would be to the death. Tython was a world of contradictions. Verdant valleys scarred by ancient battles, peaceful forests hiding ruins that radiated dark energy. The planet had been the birthplace of the Jedi Order, but it had also witnessed countless conflicts between light and dark. Now it sat abandoned, too dangerous for casual exploration, too sacred for the Empire to openly occupy, perfect for hiding secrets. Kratos piloted their stolen shuttle through turbulent atmosphere, following coordinates Mon Mothma had provided. Beside him, Atrus studied sensor readings with growing concern. "The Force here is chaotic," the boy said, "like it can't decide what it wants to be. Light one moment, dark the next." He looked at his father. "This place feels angry." "Good," Kratos said. Angry places are honest. They don't hide their nature. They landed in a clearing near massive stone structures, temples that had stood for millennia, weathered but unbroken. Kratos could feel power radiating from them even without force sensitivity. This was a place where great works had been done, where terrible prices had been paid. "Brother," Mimir said as they descended the boarding ramp, "I'm getting a very bad feeling about this. These temples, they remind me of the worst places in the Nine Realms. The kind where gods went to do things they didn't want anyone seeing. All temples hide darkness," Kratos said. "We are used to that." They approached the largest structure, a pyramid of black stone, its entrance sealed by a massive door covered in symbols that seemed to shift when looked at directly. Atreus placed his hand against the door and immediately jerked back as if burned. "It's testing me," he said, cradling his hand, "trying to read my intentions, my connection to the Force." He tried again, this time prepared. His eyes closed in concentration. The door groaned, not from physical stress, but from something deeper. Ancient mechanisms responding to Force presence after centuries of dormancy. Slowly, impossibly, the massive barrier began to open. Beyond lay darkness, not the absence of light, but something more fundamental, a void that seemed to drink in illumination. Kratos ignited the blades of chaos, their flames pushing back the shadow just enough to see. The temple's interior was vast, its architecture designed to inspire awe and terror in equal measure. Pillars stretched upward into darkness that no light could penetrate. The floor was polished stone, inscribed with more of those shifting symbols. And at the chamber's center sat a pedestal, upon which rested a pyramidal object that pulsed with inner light. "A holocron," Atreus breathed. "Jedi knowledge storage. But this one is different, bigger, more complex." As they approached, the holocron activated. Light spilled from its edges, coalescing into a holographic figure, an ancient Jedi, or what Kratos assumed had been one. The figure's robes were unfamiliar, its species something Kratos had no name for. "Seekers," the figure said, its voice echoing strangely. "You have opened the Temple of Balance. State your purpose, and be judged worthy or wanting." "We seek knowledge," Atreus said, "about dimensional travel, about crossing between realities." The hologram flickered, as if processing. "Such knowledge is forbidden. The Jedi Order sealed these teachings millennia ago, deeming them too dangerous. What makes you worthy to receive them?" "We do not ask for worthiness," Kratos said. "We demand knowledge that is ours by right of need." "Demand." The hologram's expression shifted. Amusement? Anger? Hard to tell. "You speak as one who has commanded gods. But here, in this place, such arrogance is meaningless. Prove your worth, or be consumed by what you seek to understand." The temple shuddered. From alcoves in the walls, figures began to emerge, not physical beings, but force constructs. Echoes of ancient Jedi and Sith, their forms translucent but radiating power. They moved with purpose, surrounding Kratos and Atreus in a tightening circle. A trial, Mimir realized. Of course. Why would ancient Force users just hand over forbidden knowledge? "Because we will take it," Kratos said, the blades of chaos already whirling, "whether they offer willingly or not." The Force constructs attacked. Lightsabers of blue, green, and red ignited, filling the temple with deadly light. Kratos met them head-on, his blades clashing against plasma with showers of sparks. These weren't real opponents, he could feel that. They had no true substance, no blood to spill. But they fought with the skill of masters, their techniques honed over lifetimes. A Jedi construct came at him with Form 3, defensive, patient, waiting for openings. Kratos gave it none. He pressed forward with overwhelming aggression, chains wrapping around the construct's lightsaber, yanking it off balance. His fist passed through its head, and the construct dissolved into motes of light. Another, a Sith radiating dark side energy, attacked with Form 7. Aggressive, unpredictable, fueled by rage. Kratos met rage with experience, deflecting strikes, reading patterns, waiting for the inevitable overextension. When it came, the Leviathan axe was there, its frost disrupting the construct's cohesion. Beside him, Atreus fought his own battle. The boy had forsaken his bow for close combat, using the Force to augment his movements. He dodged lightsaber strikes with prescient grace, countered with Force pushes that scattered constructs like leaves. But Kratos noticed something troubling. His son's eyes held that wildness again, that hunger for power that came from the dark side's whispers. Atreus, Kratos called. Control yourself. I am in control. But his son's voice carried strain. The Force constructs seemed drawn to Atreus, sensing his potential, testing him harder than they tested Kratos. A Sith construct grabbed Atreus' arm, its touch burning with dark energy. Let go. Atreus screamed, and Force lightning erupted from his hand. Not the controlled discharge Kratos had seen Vader use, but raw, chaotic energy. The construct dissolved, but so did 3 others nearby. And Atreus stood there, chest heaving, looking at his hands with horror. I didn't mean, I just... Focus. Kratos destroyed another construct, creating space for Atreus to recover. The power does not matter. The choice does. Choose. More constructs emerged. Dozens of them now, ancient warriors testing these intruders without mercy. Kratos felt something he rarely acknowledged: uncertainty. They could fight for hours, destroying constructs endlessly. But this was a test designed by Force users, and Kratos knew nothing of the Force beyond what he'd observed. But Atreus did. Father, his son called. It's not about defeating them. It's about understanding. Then understand quickly. Atreus closed his eyes, even as constructs advanced on him. Kratos moved to protect his son, becoming a whirlwind of chains and flame between Atreus and danger. The boy reached out with the Force, not to attack, but to sense, to comprehend. They're not real, Atreus said, his voice taking on a strange quality. They're echoes. Memories of conflict given form by the temple itself. It's showing us the duality. Light and dark. Jedi and Sith. The endless cycle of... I do not care about cycles, Kratos growled, destroying another construct. I care about ending this trial. That's how. Atreus' eyes snapped open. The trial isn't about winning. It's about refusing to fight. They will not stop attacking. Then we show them we're different, that we're not bound by their rules. Atreus lowered his hands, stood defenseless as constructs closed in. Every instinct in Kratos screamed to intervene, to save his son. But something in Atreus' expression, certainty, understanding, made him hold back. Trust, even when it defied logic. A Jedi construct's lightsaber descended toward Atreus' head. The boy didn't flinch. The blade passed through him without harm, suddenly incorporeal. We don't belong to your war, Atreus said to the constructs. We're not Jedi or Sith. We're not even from this galaxy. Your conflict has nothing to do with us. The constructs froze, all of them simultaneously. Then, one by one, they began to dissolve. Not destroyed, but dismissed. Released from whatever purpose bound them to this place. The temple's oppressive atmosphere lifted. The holocron at the chamber's center blazed with light, its geometric surfaces unfolding to reveal crystalline structures within. Well done, the ancient Jedi's hologram said, genuine approval in its tone. You have passed the trial of duality. Many who entered this temple sought to prove themselves through combat, through domination. They all failed. But you, it looked at Atreus with something like wonder. You understood that true wisdom lies not in choosing a side, but in transcending the conflict entirely. Does that mean you'll help us? Atreus asked. It means you have earned the knowledge you seek. The hologram gestured, and new projections appeared. Complex diagrams showing dimensional theory. Force-based calculations that hurt to look at. What you call dimensional travel, we studied as realm walking. The ancient Jedi discovered that the Force extends beyond this galaxy, beyond this reality. In theory, one could use it to bridge the gap between universes. In theory, Kratos moved closer, studying the diagrams despite not understanding them. Has it been done? Once. By a Jedi named Revan, who claimed to have glimpsed other realities during meditation. But the technique was deemed too dangerous. It required perfect balance between light and dark, something the Order believed impossible. The hologram paused. The Sith tried as well, seeking to conquer other dimensions. They failed catastrophically, tearing holes in reality that took centuries to seal. What do we need? Atrus pressed. To open a stable portal home? 3 things. The hologram counted them off. First, a focal point, an object that exists in both realities, serving as an anchor. Second, a Force user of immense power, capable of bridging the dimensional gap. Third, a location where the barrier between worlds is already thin. Kratos considered this. The Bifrost light that brought us here. It was an object, a bridge between realms in our world. It may still exist, if in pieces. Then that serves as your focal point, the hologram confirmed. As for the Force user, it looked at Atrus. Your potential is extraordinary. Raw, untrained, but vast. With proper focus, you might be capable of the feat, but there's significant risk. What risk? Kratos demanded. Dimensional bridging requires drawing on both light and dark simultaneously. It requires balance. If the user tips too far toward either side during the process, the portal becomes unstable. They could be torn apart, scattered across infinite realities, or worse, they could open a permanent rift, allowing anything to cross between worlds. Anything. Mimir's voice held concern. You mean like the nastier inhabitants of our realms? Jotner? Valkyries? Or if he's still alive somewhere? Or creatures from other dimensions entirely, the hologram said. The multiverse contains horrors beyond imagination. This is why the knowledge was sealed. Kratos looked at his son, seeing the conflict there. This was their way home, their chance to return to their world, to whatever waited after Ragnarok. But it required Atrus to walk a knife's edge between light and dark, to risk corruption or destruction. There must be another way, Kratos said. There is not. The hologram's tone was final. This is the only method the Jedi ever discovered. If you want to return home, this is your path. Before Atrus could respond, Mimir hissed urgently. Brothers, we have a problem. My senses are picking up something bad approaching. Multiple Force signatures. Strong ones. Kratos felt it too. That cold presence he'd learned to associate with the Empire. But this time, it was overwhelming. Not just Vader. Something more. The temple entrance exploded inward, stone and dust filling the air. Through the debris walked Darth Vader, his lightsaber already ignited. Behind him came Inquisitors, not just 1 or 2, but 8 of them. And behind them, walking with casual arrogance, a figure in black robes whose presence made even Vader seem small. Emperor Palpatine had come to Tython personally. How touching. The Emperor's voice was silk over poison. A family reunion, and in a temple of such power. His yellow eyes fixed on Atrus with predatory intensity. The boy, the one who carries such potential. I have felt you across the galaxy, child. Felt your struggle with the dark side. Your fear of what you might become. Stay away from my son, Kratos warned, weapons ready. Or what? Palpatine laughed, a sound like breaking glass. You'll kill me as you killed your pantheon? How delightful. But you misunderstand the situation. You're not trapped in here with me, warrior. I'm here to extend an invitation. We want nothing from you, Atrus said. Oh, but you need everything from me. Palpatine gestured at the holocron. You've learned how to go home. Wonderful. But you lack the location where dimensions are thin, don't you? The final piece of your puzzle. Kratos' blood ran cold. The Emperor had been listening, had tracked them here not to kill them, but to manipulate them. I know where such a place exists, Palpatine continued. A nexus of Force energy where the barriers between realities have worn paper thin. I'll give you its coordinates. I'll even allow you to leave my empire unmolested, to attempt your dimensional bridge. His smile widened. For a price. What price? Kratos already knew he wouldn't like the answer. Simple. Palpatine pointed at Atrus. The boy stays. Becomes my apprentice. learns to master his power under my tutelage. When he's ready, when he's powerful enough to open the portal safely, then you both may leave. You'll have your son back and your way home. All I ask is time to shape him into what he's meant to become." "No," Kratos said immediately. "Father, wait," Atreus started. "No." Kratos' voice echoed through the temple. "I have heard such promises before. From Ares, who wanted to make me his perfect warrior. From Athena, who wanted to use me for her own ends. I will not give my son to another manipulator, another god emperor who sees people as tools." "Such sentiment?" Palpatine mocked. "But what's your alternative? Refuse my offer, and I'll have Vader kill you both right here. The boy's potential will die with him, and you'll never see your home again." His expression hardened. "Accept, and at least one of you survives. At least your son has a future, even if it's not the one you'd choose for him." Vader stepped forward, lightsaber raised. The Inquisitors fanned out, surrounding them. Kratos calculated odds, distances, escape routes. They were trapped, outnumbered. Even with Spartan rage, even with everything he'd learned about fighting Force users, this was too much. But then Atreus spoke, his voice carrying a certainty that surprised everyone. "There's a third option," the boy said. "We fight our way out. Not to win, we can't win, but to escape, to buy time to find that Nexus point ourselves." He looked at his father. "You've taught me that sometimes the only choice is to defy impossible odds. So let's defy them." Kratos felt pride surge through him, not at his son's power, but at his spirit. The refusal to submit, even when submission seemed logical. That was worth more than all the Force sensitivity in the galaxy. "Together then," Kratos said, taking position beside Atreus. "How predictable," Palpatine sighed. "Vader. Inquisitors. Kill the father. Bring me the boy, broken but breathing." The temple erupted into violence. Vader came at Kratos like a black storm, lightsaber moving with lethal precision. The Inquisitors divided their attention between both father and son, their spinning blades creating walls of crimson light. And through it all, Palpatine watched with amusement, studying them like specimens. This was it, the true test. Not against individual warriors or scattered enemies, but against the Empire's full might. And as Kratos met Vader's blade with his chains, as Atreus deflected lightsabers with desperate Force pushes, one thought dominated the Ghost of Sparta's mind. They would survive this. They would find that Nexus. They would go home. Or they would die trying. And if death came, they would drag the Emperor's servants into the void with them. The God of War was done running. The Temple of Balance had become a crucible of violence, unlike anything Tython had witnessed in millennia. Kratos moved like death given form, the blades of chaos carving paths through Inquisitors who had hunted Force sensitives for years. But numbers and skill pressed against him like a vice. 8 Inquisitors, each one trained to kill Jedi, coordinating with precision that spoke of shared purpose. And Vader, always Vader, his presence a gravitational force pulling everything toward darkness. The Dark Lord's lightsaber met Kratos' chains in a shower of sparks, plasma against divine fire, creating light that burned retinas. Vader fought with economy, no wasted movement, no flourish. Every strike had purpose, seeking arteries, joints, vulnerabilities that armor couldn't protect. "You are skilled," Vader acknowledged between exchanges. "But skill alone is insufficient. You lack understanding of the Force. That will be your undoing." He thrust out his hand. An invisible force slammed into Kratos' chest. Not the grip around the throat this time, but a battering ram of pure telekinetic power. Kratos flew backward, crashing through an ancient pillar. Stone exploded around him, dust filling the air. Across the chamber, Atreus faced 3 Inquisitors simultaneously. The boy had abandoned his bow, no time for ranged combat in this chaos. Instead, he moved with Force-enhanced speed, dodging crimson blades by centimeters, using telekinesis to redirect attacks, turning the Inquisitors' coordination against them. But Kratos could see the strain, see his son drawing deeper on the Force with each passing moment, and with it, drawing on anger, on fear, on all the emotions the dark side fed upon. Yes, Palpatine's voice drifted from where he stood, untouched by the battle. Let flow through you, child. Your anger makes you strong. Your fear makes you quick. Embrace what you are. Shut up. Atreus screamed, and Force lightning erupted from his hands, raw, uncontrolled, beautiful, and terrible. It caught one Inquisitor, sent him convulsing to the ground. The other two backed away, reassessing. Kratos pulled himself from a rubble, feeling cracked ribs grinding. Not broken, his body was too resilient for that, but damaged. He couldn't maintain this pace. Neither could Atreus. They needed to shift the dynamic, change the battlefield somehow. The holocron, still active, still pulsing with light at the chamber's center. If the Emperor wanted it, wanted the knowledge within, Kratos threw the Leviathan axe. Not at Vader, not at the Inquisitors. At the holocron itself. The axe flew true, its frost-wreathed blade spinning toward the ancient artifact. Palpatine's expression shifted, surprise, then alarm. Stop him, the Emperor commanded. Vader raised his hand, force grip catching the axe mid-flight. The weapon hung suspended, trembling as two wills contested for control. Kratos called to it, pulling with all his strength, but Vader's power was immense. For a moment, they were deadlocked. Then Atreus added his own force pull to his father's strength. The combined pressure shattered Vader's grip. The Leviathan axe continued its trajectory, striking the holocron dead center. The artifact exploded, knowledge and energy bursting outward in a wave that knocked everyone, even Palpatine, back a step. No, the Emperor's composure cracked. You fool. That holocron contained answers you wanted, Kratos finished, recalling his axe. Now no one has them. You've doomed yourself. Palpatine's fury was terrible to behold. His hands came up and force lightning erupted. Not the crude discharge Atreus had produced, but refined, concentrated devastation. Blue-white energy arced toward Kratos. He met it with the blades of chaos. Divine fire against Sith lightning, two fundamental forces colliding. Pain lanced through Kratos' body as electricity sought paths to his heart, his brain, every vital organ. He'd felt Zeus's lightning before, had been killed by it. This was different, not divine, but no less deadly. Father. Atreus moved to intervene, but two Inquisitors blocked his path. The boy fought with desperate fury, but he was tiring. They all were. Kratos pushed forward, walking through Palpatine's lightning through sheer force of will. One step. Two. Each one an eternity of agony. But he'd walked through worse. Had climbed from the underworld itself. A Sith Emperor's lightning was nothing compared to what he'd endured. His hand closed around Palpatine's wrist. The lightning stopped, shock evident in those yellow eyes. You are powerful, Kratos growled, his face inches from the Emperor's. But you are not a god, and I have killed gods. He threw Palpatine across the chamber. The Emperor hit the wall hard enough to crack stone, sliding down with a grace that suggested the impact had been partially absorbed by the Force. But for the first time, uncertainty flickered across his features. Vader, Palpatine commanded, his voice strained. Kill them both. The boy is no longer worth the trouble. The Dark Lord's breathing quickened, the only sign of emotion. He raised both hands, and the entire temple began to shake. Pillars cracked. The ceiling groaned. Vader was bringing the structure down on top of them, using the Force to manipulate tons of ancient stone. We need to leave. Mimir shouted, Now, brothers. But there was no clear path to the entrance. Inquisitors blocked it, and the chamber was collapsing. They were trapped in a tomb of their own making. Unless. Kratos looked up. The ceiling was cracking, but beyond it he could see sky. Daylight. If they could reach it before the collapse crushed them. Atreus, he called. Can you slow the collapse? With the Force. I don't know. I've never tried anything that big. Try now. Atreus closed his eyes, reaching out. Kratos felt the air grow heavy as his son's presence expanded, touching every stone, every crack. The collapse slowed, not stopping, but delayed. Buying seconds. Seconds were enough. Kratos grabbed his son, lifting him onto his shoulders. Then he jumped, enhanced muscles carrying them upward with force that would have shattered mortal bones. He caught a crumbling ledge, pulled them higher. Again, using the falling debris as platforms, ascending through chaos toward light. Behind them, Vader leaped to follow, but a massive pillar collapsed directly in his path. The Dark Lord caught it with the Force, holding tons of stones suspended, but the effort divided his attention, gave Kratos the opening he needed. They burst through the ceiling as the temple collapsed entirely. Kratos twisted midair, seeing the structure implode, burying Vader, Palpatine, and the Inquisitors in rubble. They hit the ground hard, rolling to absorb impact, coming up running. The ship, Atreus pointed toward where they'd landed. If it's still there. It was. Miraculously untouched by the temple's destruction. They sprinted across open ground, expecting attack from above, from TIE fighters or Star Destroyers. But the sky remained clear. Either the Emperor had come with minimal escort, confident in his power, or his forces were too far away to respond quickly. They reached the shuttle, collapsed inside. Atreus took the controls with hands that shook from exhaustion and adrenaline. The engines screamed to life. "Did we kill them?" Atreus asked as they lifted off. Palpatine and Vader. "No," Kratos said with certainty. "They survived. But we hurt them. Forced them to acknowledge we are not prey." Through the viewport, he watched as rocks began to shift. A hand, black, mechanical, emerged from the rubble. Then Vader's entire form pulled free, using the Force to clear debris. Beside him, Palpatine rose with less dignity but equal determination. The Emperor looked up at their departing shuttle. Even across the distance, Kratos felt those yellow eyes lock onto them, felt the promise of retribution. "He'll hunt us to the end of the galaxy now," Mimir observed. "We made this personal." "It was always personal," Kratos said, "from the moment we arrived in his empire. Now he simply knows we will not submit." As they broke atmosphere, fleeing toward the stars, Atreus pulled up holographic displays. The holocron. "Father, when it exploded, I felt something. Knowledge flowing out. Some of it." He looked up, wonder and fear mixing in his expression. "I think I absorbed some of it. Not everything, but fragments. About the dimensional nexus." "Where?" Kratos demanded. "Mortis." Atreus's brow furrowed as he accessed memories that weren't entirely his own. "A realm that exists outside normal space, where the Force itself is concentrated, where beings of pure light and dark once lived. The barriers between realities are thinnest there. How do we reach it? That's the problem." Atreus's expression fell. "Mortis exists in a pocket dimension. It only appears when the Celestials, beings older than the Jedi, older than the Sith, allow it. We can't just navigate there. We'd need..." He trailed off, searching the stolen knowledge. "We'd need someone who's been there before, who knows the way." "The rebels might have records," Mimir suggested. "Ancient Jedi texts they've recovered. Vader hunted down most of it, but the Alliance is resourceful." Kratos considered their options. Return to the rebellion, ask for more help, dig through ancient lore searching for a pathway to an impossible realm. It meant more time in this galaxy, more entanglements, more opportunities for the Empire to catch them. But what choice did they have? Set course for Yavin, he decided. We regroup. We research. We find Mortis. And if the Emperor reaches us first, then we fight. Kratos looked at his son, saw exhaustion in his eyes, saw the tremor in his hands from drawing too deeply on the Force. But not today. Today we survived. That is victory enough. Atreus nodded, inputting coordinates. As hyperspace swallowed them, carrying them away from Tython's wreckage, Kratos felt the weight of what they'd done settle on his shoulders. They defied the Emperor directly, destroyed ancient knowledge, made themselves targets beyond redemption. But they'd also learned the path home. Not the complete path, not yet, but a direction. Mortis. A realm that existed outside normal reality, where the Force concentrated, where dimensional barriers weakened. If they could reach it, if Atreus could maintain balance between light and dark long enough to open a portal, if they could find the Bifrost fragments that served as their anchor. Too many ifs. Too many variables. But Kratos had succeeded against worse odds. Had toppled pantheons when everyone said it was impossible. Had walked out of death itself. One more impossible task. One more trial to overcome. And then, finally, home. 2 days later, they received a transmission. Not from the rebellion, but from an imperial frequency they'd monitored. Vader's voice, mechanical and implacable. God Killer, I know you can hear this. Know that the Emperor has declared you an enemy of the state. Every Inquisitor, every bounty hunter, every imperial asset in the galaxy now hunts you. There is nowhere you can hide. No one who will shelter you without bringing destruction upon themselves. A pause. The breathing continued, rhythmic, ominous. But I offer you one final chance. Surrender the boy. Let him fulfill his potential under the Emperor's guidance. Do this, and you may leave our galaxy unmolested. Refuse, and when I find you, and I will find you, I will make you watch as your son falls to the dark side, as he becomes everything you feared, everything you tried to prevent. Another pause. You have 3 days to decide. After that, the hunt intensifies. Choose wisely, warrior. Some battles cannot be won through strength alone. The transmission ended. Kratos looked at Atreus, saw his son's jaw set with determination, saw the boy, no, the young man he'd raised. Strong, brave, unbreakable. We don't surrender, Atreus said. Not to him, not to anyone. No, Kratos agreed. We don't. We find Mortis. We open the portal. We go home. His hand rested on his son's shoulder. Together, as we have always done. Together, Atreus echoed. In the stars ahead, their destination waited. Yavin 4, the rebellion. And beyond that, somewhere in the impossible vastness of the galaxy, a pathway between worlds. The Ghost of Sparta had never been one to accept defeat. He wouldn't start now. Yavin 4 felt different when they returned. The rebellion had scattered after Vader's assault, but now they were regrouping, slower, more cautiously. The jungle temple hummed with renewed purpose as ships arrived from hiding, carrying personnel and equipment salvaged from the evacuation. Mon Mothma stood in the war room, coordinating efforts, when Kratos and Atreus entered. "You're alive," she said, relief evident despite her diplomatic composure. The reports from Tython were concerning. The entire temple complex collapsed. "We feared the worst. We brought the worst with us," Kratos said. "The Emperor knows what we seek. He will continue hunting us. Then we'd better find what you need quickly." Leia entered, followed by Luke. The young Jedi looked haggard, as if he hadn't slept since the evacuation. "We've been searching our archives. Every recovered Jedi text, every fragment of lore we've salvaged. There are references to Mortis, but they're fragmentary, contradictory." "Show us," Atreus said. They gathered around a holographic display showing ancient texts in various states of decay. Luke manipulated the projections, highlighting relevant passages. Mortis is described as a conduit, a realm where the Force flows with concentrated purity. 3 beings live there: the Father, who maintained balance; the Daughter, embodiment of the light; and the Son, embodiment of the dark. Luke's voice grew somber. "According to legend, they're all dead now. The realm exists, but is empty, abandoned. How do we reach it?" Kratos asked. "That's where it gets difficult." Leia pulled up star charts showing vast swaths of uncharted space. Mortis exists outside normal spacetime. It can only be accessed through specific astronomical phenomena, alignments of celestial bodies, gravitational anomalies that temporarily weaken the barriers. The last recorded visit was decades ago, by a Jedi Knight named Anakin Skywalker and his... She stopped, realization dawning. "Vader," Kratos finished. "Vader has been there. He knows the way." "Which means," Mon Mothma said quietly, "that he's the only one who can lead you to what you need. And he's declared you enemies of the Empire." Silence filled the war room. The impossible arithmetic of their situation laid bare. They needed Vader's knowledge to reach Mortis. Vader wanted to kill Kratos and corrupt Atreus. There was no middle ground. No negotiation. We take it from him, Atreus said suddenly. All eyes turned to him. The knowledge. The memories. The Force can read minds, right? If we captured him, if I could. No, Luke interrupted. Reading Vader's mind would be like diving into an abyss. The dark side is so concentrated in him, it would corrupt you instantly, especially untrained as you are. Then we force him to tell us, Kratos said. Physically. You fought him twice, Draven observed. Both times ended in stalemate or retreat. What makes you think a third encounter would be different? Kratos had no answer. She was right. Vader was too powerful, too skilled. In a direct confrontation, especially with Inquisitors supporting him, the odds were against them. There might be another way. Mimir's voice carried careful consideration. Brother, remember Freya? How she could access memories through objects, through places where strong events occurred. The Force might allow something similar. What are you suggesting? Mon Mothma asked. Vader traveled to Mortis decades ago, Mimir explained. His ship, the vessel he used for that journey, it might carry residual Force impressions. Echoes of that trip. If Atreus could touch it, read those impressions. He'd have the route, Luke finished, understanding dawning. Not from Vader directly, but from the ship's memory. It's risky, but theoretically possible. Where is this ship? Kratos asked. Leia pulled up Imperial records, stolen intelligence, showing fleet deployments. Vader's personal starfighter is kept aboard the Executor, his flagship, which is currently. She zoomed in on a star system. Stationed at Scarif, overseeing reconstruction of the Imperial security complex there. Infiltrate the largest star destroyer in the fleet, Draven said flatly. Steal Vader's personal ship. Read Force echoes from it while surrounded by thousands of stormtroopers and potentially Vader himself. She looked at Kratos. You understand how insane that sounds? Yes. Kratos met her gaze without flinching. But it is our only path forward, unless you have better suggestions. No one spoke. The impossibility hung in the air like smoke. Will help, Mon Mothma decided. Not with the infiltration. We can't spare forces for what's essentially a suicide mission. But we can create a distraction. Draw Imperial attention away from Scarif temporarily. Give you a window. How? Atreus asked. We've been planning a raid on an Imperial weapons depot in the Rishi system. Important target. Minimal defenses since Vader's fleet is at Scarif. If we hit it hard and loud, the Empire will have to respond. Vader might even be recalled to deal with it personally. Might. Kratos noted the uncertainty. It's the best we can offer, Mon Mothma said. The rest is up to you. Kratos looked at Atreus, reading the determination in his son's eyes. The boy wanted this. Wanted to go home so badly he was willing to risk everything. And Kratos was tired. Tired of running. Tired of fighting other people's wars. Tired of watching his son struggle with powers that didn't belong to him. When, he asked. 2 days, Draven said. That's how long we need to position our forces. You'll have maybe 4 hours, from when our raid begins to when Imperial reinforcements arrive at Scarif. After that, you're on your own. We have always been on our own, Kratos said. The transport ship carrying them toward Scarif was cramped and uncomfortable. A modified freighter with just enough stealth plating to avoid immediate detection. Kratos sat in the cargo hold, methodically checking his weapons. The Leviathan axe, the blades of chaos. Both had served him faithfully across dimensions. They would serve him once more. Across from him, Atreus meditated. Luke's teaching, attempting to center himself before what was to come. But Kratos could see the tremor in his son's hands. The fear beneath the calm. You do not have to do this, Kratos said quietly. Atreus's eyes opened. Yes, I do. We both know the alternative is staying in this galaxy forever. Becoming targets. Eventually, the Empire catches us. Eventually, you die protecting me, or I fall to the dark side trying to save you. His voice steadied. This is our only chance. The ship may carry no useful memories. This may be a fool's errand. Then we'll find another way. We always do. Atreus smiled, small, but genuine. You taught me that. No matter how impossible it seems, there's always a path forward. You just have to be strong enough to walk it. Kratos felt pride swell in his chest. His son had learned well, perhaps too well, that stubborn refusal to yield, that determination to forge ahead despite overwhelming odds. Those were traits Kratos had carried his entire life. Seeing them reflected in Atreus was both gratifying and terrifying. When we reached the Executor, Kratos said, "You stay close. We move quickly. No heroics. We find the ship, you read what you can, we escape." Understood. Understood. But both knew it wouldn't be that simple. It never was. The transport dropped from hyperspace at the edge of the Scarif system. Through the viewport, they saw it, the Executor, dominating space like a black knife. Around it, smaller star destroyers formed a defensive perimeter. TIE fighters swarmed in patrol patterns. The entire system was a fortress. Rebel raid beginning in 3, 2, 1. The pilot's voice came over the comm. In another system, far away, explosions would be blooming. Rebel ships engaging Imperial forces, drawing attention, creating chaos. Here, alerts began sounding aboard Imperial vessels. Ships broke formation, jumping to hyperspace to respond. Even the Executor's complement of TIE fighters launched, streaming away toward the crisis. But the superstar destroyer itself remained. And aboard it, somewhere in its kilometers of corridors, Vader's personal starfighter waited. "Go," the pilot said. "You've got 4 hours. Make them count." They launched in an escape pod, too small for sensors to track as a threat, programmed to drift toward the Executor's hangar as if it were debris from a collision. It was a one-way trip. If they succeeded, they'd steal Vader's ship to escape. If they failed, Kratos didn't think about failure. The pod struck the hangar bay's magnetic barrier, passing through into atmosphere. They cracked it open, emerged into a space so vast it could have held entire cities. Ships of various designs sat in organized rows. Personnel moved with purpose, unaware that intruders had just entered their domain. "There," Atreus whispered, pointing. In a private berth, separated from the standard craft, sat a sleek starfighter, black as night, its design suggesting speed and lethality. Vader's personal vessel. They moved through shadows, avoiding patrols. Kratos had learned stealth in his youth, hunting in Sparta's mountains. Those skills translated here: patience, timing, understanding guard patterns. They reached the berth without incident. The starfighter was beautiful in its way, deadly, purpose-built for a warrior who had transcended normal human limitations. Atreus approached it reverently, his hand reaching out to touch its hull. "I can feel it," he breathed. The Force echoes. Memories soaked into the metal. Vader's presence, but also something older. Anakin Skywalker before the fall. His eyes closed, concentration evident. Kratos stood guard, weapons ready, counting seconds. Around them, the hangar continued its normal operations. No alarms yet. No indication they'd been discovered. But his warrior's instinct screamed warning. "Hurry," he urged. "I'm trying." It's like layers. Years of missions, battles, victories, all compressed together. "I need to find the specific memory of Mortis, separated from..." Atreus gasped, his hand jerking back as if burned. "Father, he's here. Vader. I can feel him coming. He knows we're aboard. Then we leave. Now. But I haven't found the route yet. I need more time." "We do not have." The hangar's main entrance exploded inward. Through the smoke walked Darth Vader, his presence preceding him like a wave of cold. Behind him, a full platoon of stormtroopers spread out, cutting off escape routes. "I knew you would come," Vader said, his mechanical voice carrying across the hangar. "The Force showed me your desperation, your need. You are predictable God killer, and predictability is weakness." Kratos pushed Atreus toward the starfighter. "Get inside. Find what we need. I will hold him." "Father, you can't." "I have held worse." Kratos drew the blades of chaos, their flames igniting. "Go." Atreus scrambled into the starfighter's cockpit, while Kratos advanced on Vader. The Dark Lord's lightsaber ignited, red blade humming with deadly promise. "You cannot win," Vader stated. "You know this. Yet you fight anyway." "Why?" "Because he is my son," Kratos said simply. "And I will not let you have him." Admirable. Futile. But admirable. Vader assumed a combat stance. "Come then, warrior. Show me what a god killer can do." They clashed in the center of the hangar, and the force of their collision sent shockwaves rippling outward. Chains against lightsaber, divine fire against plasma, god killer against Dark Lord. It was the duel they'd been building toward since Kratos first arrived in this galaxy. No more testing. No more retreating. Just two warriors at the height of their powers, fighting with everything they had. Kratos fought with centuries of experience, with techniques refined across dimensions. He moved like poetry written in violence, each strike carrying killing intent, each dodge precisely calculated. Vader matched him. The Dark Lord's style was different, more economical, built around the Force rather than pure physicality. But no less deadly. His lightsaber found gaps in Kratos' defense, burned through leather and skin, left cauterized wounds that would have killed a normal man. But Kratos had never been normal. He grabbed Vader's lightsaber arm, his grip denting armor, pulled the Dark Lord close, headbutt the mask hard enough to crack a lens, followed with a knee to the chest panel that sparked and sputtered. Vader retaliated with force lightning, point blank. Electricity coursed through Kratos' body, stopped his heart for 3 beats. But Spartan rage ignited in response, flooding his veins with primal fury that restarted his heart through sheer stubbornness. They broke apart, circling. Both damaged. Both calculating. "You are strong," Vader acknowledged. "Stronger than I anticipated. But strength is not enough. You lack the Force. That will always be your limit." "I have killed beings who wielded forces beyond your comprehension," Kratos replied. "You are just another tyrant, another obstacle. And I have never failed to overcome obstacles. There is always a first time." Vader raised both hands, and the entire hangar responded. Ships tore free of their moorings, hurled through the air as projectiles. Support beams groaned and snapped. The Dark Lord was using the Force with abandonment, reshaping the battlefield itself. Kratos dodged, rolled, smashed through obstacles. But it was too much. Too many variables. He felt something massive behind him, a transport ship, ripped free and accelerating toward him. He wouldn't be able to dodge in time. Then light blazed, and the transport stopped. Kratos looked up to see Atreus standing in Vader's starfighter, one hand extended, every muscle straining. His son was using the Force, matching Vader's telekinetic push, holding the ship suspended. "Father, run!" Atreus screamed. Kratos didn't hesitate. He sprinted toward the starfighter as Atreus released the transport, letting it crash behind his father. The boy had figured out the memory, found what they needed, had to have, or he wouldn't be trying to escape. Kratos leaped, caught the starfighter's hull, pulled himself up to the cockpit. Atreus had already fired the engines. The craft lurched upward, streaking toward the hangar entrance. Vader's voice followed them, transmitted directly to the ship's comm system. "You have learned nothing. You cannot escape. I know where you're going now. I felt your son touch those memories. I know you seek Mortis. Then meet us there," Kratos said into the comm, "and we will finish this. Oh, we will finish this. But not how you imagine." There was something in Vader's tone. Satisfaction? Anticipation? Mortis is not salvation, God killer. It is a crucible, and your son will burn in its fires. The transmission cut off. They shot from the hangar, Imperial fighters scrambling to pursue. But Vader's personal starfighter was faster, more agile. They outpaced pursuit, jumped to hyperspace before the Executor's tractor beams could lock on. In the cockpit, Atreus collapsed, exhausted. "I found it. The route to Mortis. The specific gravitational alignment needed." "But father." He looked up, fear in his eyes. Vader was right. I saw his memories of that place. What it does to Force users. It amplifies everything, light, dark, everything. if I'm not perfectly balanced when I try to open the portal? You will be, Kratos said with certainty he didn't entirely feel. Because you must be. Because the alternative is unacceptable. What if I fail? What if I fall to the dark side trying? Then I will bring you back. Kratos placed a hand on his son's shoulder. As you brought me back from my rage. As we have always brought each other back. We do not abandon each other. Not to darkness. Not to anything. Atreus nodded, some of the fear receding. The alignment happens in 3 days. At a specific location. Coordinates I pulled from the memory. We need to be there exactly then, or we'll miss our chance. Wait another year for the next alignment. Then we go now, Kratos decided. We prepare. We rest. And in 3 days, we open the portal and end this. As hyperspace streaked past, carrying them toward destiny, Kratos felt the weight of everything that had brought them here. The rupture during Ragnarok, landing on Fonder, fighting Inquisitors, meeting the rebellion, facing Vader repeatedly. Every step had led to this moment. 3 days. 3 days until Mortis. Until they would stand at the threshold between worlds and attempt something only the most powerful Force users had ever achieved. 3 days until they either went home or were lost forever. The Ghost of Sparta had faced his final battles before, had stood against Ares, against Zeus, against fate itself. This would be one more, one last trial. And if Vader wanted to meet them there, wanted to make Mortis their battleground, then so be it. Some battles were inevitable. Some conflicts could only be resolved through absolute commitment, through willingness to risk everything. Kratos had always been willing to risk everything. Now he just had to ensure his son survived the gamble. The coordinates led them to a place where stars aligned in patterns that defied natural physics. Space itself rippled here, reality bending as dimensional barriers grew thin. Kratos stood in the cockpit of Vader's stolen starfighter, watching phenomena he had no names for, light that curved impossibly, shadows that existed without sources, colors that shouldn't exist in normal space. There, Atreus breathed, pointing. Through the distortions, a realm materialized. Not a planet, not a construct, something between a monastery carved from light and stone, floating in a pocket of twisted spacetime. Mortis. They approached slowly, feeling the pull of the place. As they crossed the threshold, everything changed. The force here was overwhelming, not hostile, but present in a way it had never been before. Like swimming in an ocean after only knowing puddles. Atreus gasped, his hands gripping the controls white-knuckled. Father, it's so much. The light, the dark, everything. I can feel it all pressing against me. Trying to make me choose. Do not choose, Kratos said. Remember what we learned. You are not Jedi or Sith. You transcend their war. They landed on a platform that shouldn't exist, stone floating in a void. Around them, the architecture of Mortis defied logic. Towers that bent toward and away from each other simultaneously. Bridges that connected nothing to nowhere yet remained solid underfoot. As they descended the boarding ramp, two figures materialized. Not physical beings, but force constructs like those in Tython's temple. But these were different. More defined. More aware. The daughter, Atreus whispered, recognizing one from the memories he touched. A being of pure light, radiant and beautiful in the way distant stars are beautiful. Untouchable. Perfect. Beside her stood her opposite, the sun. Darkness given form, but not evil. Just absence. The void between stars. Necessary balance to blinding light. They're dead, Atreus said. The memories showed they died. How? Echoes, Mimir supplied. This place remembers them. Remembers what they were. Strong enough memories that they almost live again. The daughter spoke, her voice like wind chimes. Seekers. You have come to Mortis seeking passage between worlds. Few have attempted such a feat, fewer still have succeeded. We do not ask permission, Kratos said. We take what we need. So speaks the God Killer. The son's voice was deeper, carrying undertones of amusement. You destroyed your pantheon. broke divine chains. Yet here you stand in a place of ultimate power, making demands of echoes. He gestured at Atreus. But him, the boy, is different. He carries potential. Not light. Not dark. Something new. He is my son, Kratos said. That is all that matters. Is it? The daughter moved closer to Atreus, studying him with eyes that saw too much. Child of two worlds. Demigod from one reality. Force-sensitive in another. You stand at a crossroads. To open the portal home, you must achieve perfect balance. But balance is not neutrality. It is embracing both light and dark equally, understanding their necessity. Can you do this? I have to, Atreus said. We need to go home. Need and capability are different. The sun circled them like a predator assessing prey. The portal requires immense power. Drawing on light side alone would burn you out. Dark side alone would corrupt you. You must walk the edge, accept anger without being consumed, embrace peace without becoming detached. One misstep and you unravel. Kratos moved between the constructs and his son. Enough philosophy. Tell us what must be done. There. The daughter pointed to the center of Mortis. Where the monastery's towers converged, a platform floated. Empty. Waiting. That is the Nexus. Where dimensional barriers are thinnest. Your son must stand there, hold the anchor from your reality, and channel the force through himself. The portal will open, or he will be destroyed trying. That is unacceptable, Kratos said. That is reality. The son's smile was cold. The force demands payment. Nothing comes freely. Your son survives if he is strong enough, dies if he is not. There is no other path. Before Kratos could respond, new presences arrived. Ships dropping from hyperspace, Imperial vessels, star destroyers, forming a blockade around Mortis, and descending toward the monastery, a shuttle bearing the mark of the Empire. He followed us, Atreus said, resignation in his voice. Of course he did. The shuttle landed. Darth Vader emerged, his black armor absorbing the strange light of Mortis. Behind him came Inquisitors, fewer now, their numbers depleted from earlier battles. But still deadly, still committed. God Killer, Vader called across the platform. Your journey ends here. Surrender the boy. Save yourself. This is your final chance. Kratos drew his weapons. The Leviathan axe. The blades of chaos. Both familiar. Both true. I have given you chances to walk away. You refused. Now you face the consequences. Amusing. Vader's lightsaber ignited. I was about to say the same to you. They charged simultaneously, God Killer and Dark Lord, meeting in the center of Mortis, with a clash that sent shockwaves through the realm itself. Around them, Inquisitors moved to engage, but the son and daughter's echoes blocked their path. This duel is theirs alone, the daughter said. Balance must be decided. Kratos and Vader fought with everything they had. No holding back. No testing. This was the culmination of every encounter, every lesson learned. Kratos moved like the god of war he'd once been, techniques from Sparta and Olympus blending with everything he'd learned fighting Force users. Vader matched him, the dark side amplifying his already formidable abilities in this place of concentrated power. Lightsaber met chains. Fire clashed with darkness. Two warriors who had each destroyed everything they loved, each rebuilt themselves from ashes, each refused to yield. They were perfectly matched. Father, Atreus' voice cut through the battle. I'm going. I have to try now, while you keep him busy. No. Kratos tried to disengage, but Vader pressed the attack, sensing the opportunity. Your son makes his choice, Vader said, just as Anakin Skywalker once made his. And like me, he will fall. The dark side is inevitable for those with such power. You are wrong. Kratos caught Vader's lightsaber between his chain blades, holding it locked. My son is stronger than you were, stronger than any fallen Jedi. He will not break. We shall see. Atreus ran toward the Nexus, the focal point where reality frayed. From his pack, he withdrew fragments, pieces of the Bifrost light that had brought them here, salvaged from their initial arrival, kept safe through every battle. The anchor, the connection to home. He placed them on the platform and knelt, closing his eyes, reaching out with the Force, but also with something deeper. The divine heritage from his mother, the mortal stubbornness from his father. Everything that made him Atreus, demigod and Force-sensitive, son of Kratos and Lao Fei. Power began to build. Light and dark swirled around him, drawn by his presence, his need. The fragments of Bifrost light responded, glowing with rainbow luminescence. Between them and Atreus, a tear began to form. Not in space, but in reality itself. Through that tear, Kratos caught glimpses of another world. Snow-covered mountains, familiar trees, the 9 realms, home. Father, I can see it. Atreus' voice strained with effort. The portal is opening, but it's pulling so hard. The Force wants to either fully dark or fully light. It's trying to make me choose. Then do not choose. Kratos roared, even as he fought Vader. You are not their tool. Not light. Not dark. You are Atreus, my son. That is your identity. That is your strength. Power surged. The portal widened. But at the edges, it was becoming unstable. Reality cracking. Other dimensions bleeding through. Not just the 9 realms now, but glimpses of countless other realities. Other possibilities. The multiverse itself responding to the breach. The boy loses control, Vader observed, his attacks relentless. Soon the portal will collapse, taking him with it. Or worse, it will tear open completely, allowing anything to cross. Demons, monsters, things that should remain locked away. You know nothing of my son's strength. But even as Kratos spoke, he saw the truth. Atreus was struggling. The power required was too much. Balance too difficult to maintain. His son was going to fail, was going to be destroyed or corrupted trying. Unless Kratos made his choice. He released his weapons, letting them fall, opened his guard completely. Vader's lightsaber struck true, piercing his side, burning through flesh and muscle. Agonizing, potentially mortal. But it gave Kratos the opening he needed. His hands closed around Vader's helmet, his grip like iron. If my son falls, Kratos said, his face inches from Vader's mask, it will not be alone. I will not let him die in this place. I will not let him become what you became. His grip tightened. So I give you one final chance, Anakin Skywalker. Remember who you were. Remember why you fell. Help us or die here beside us. For a moment, nothing. Then Vader's breathing changed, quickened. The Dark Lord's hand came up, but not to attack. To grip Kratos' wrist. Not pulling away, holding on. I remember. The voice was different, distorted by the mask, but carrying emotion Kratos hadn't heard before. Pain, regret. I remember what I lost, what I destroyed, for power, for the promise of saving those I loved. Vader looked toward Atreus, saw the boy struggling with the same temptation. I cannot let another fall as I did. Vader moved, pulling himself free from Kratos' grip, walked toward the Nexus, where Atreus fought to maintain the portal. The Inquisitors moved to stop him, but the daughter and son's echoes held them back. Boy, Vader's voice carried to Atreus. You asked once what I was. I am a lesson, a warning of what happens when you let fear choose for you, when you embrace power without wisdom. He raised his hands. But I am also proof that it is never too late, that even one so fallen can choose, for one moment, to be what they were meant to be. Vader reached out with the Force, not to attack, not to control, to support. His vast power, refined through decades, flowed toward Atreus, not overwhelming the boy, but providing structure, stability, like a master craftsman guiding an apprentice's hand. The light is peace, Vader said, his voice taking on a quality it hadn't held in 20 years. But peace without passion is stagnation. The dark is power, but power without restraint is destruction. You need both, not one or the other, both. Atreus gasped, understanding flooding through him. With Vader's support, the balance became possible. Light and dark, not warring but complementing. Like the daughter and son, like the father who had maintained Mortis, like what the Force had always been meant to be before Jedi and Sith divided it. The portal stabilized, grew. Through it, the 9 realms beckoned, real, solid, home. Now, Vader commanded, "Go, before the Empire realizes what I've done." Kratos retrieved his weapons, moved to Atreus. His son was shaking, exhausted, but alive, triumphant. Together, they stepped toward the portal. "Wait." Atreus looked back at Vader. "Come with us. You don't have to stay here. Don't have to be his weapon anymore." "No." Vader's voice carried finality. "My path was chosen long ago. I cannot walk away from what I've done. The galaxy would not forgive it. I would not forgive it." He gestured at the portal. "But you can still have what I lost. A father, a home, a future. Take it. Live the life I couldn't." The Inquisitors were breaking free from the echoes. Imperial troops flooding onto Mortis. Time was running out. "Thank you," Kratos said, words he rarely spoke. "For this. For giving my son what he needed." "Protect him," Vader replied. "That is thanks enough. Now go." They went, stepped through the portal, feeling reality shift around them. The Force gave way to the familiar energies of the 9 realms. The oppressive weight of Mortis lifted, replaced by cold wind and mountain air. Behind them, the portal collapsed, cut off from its anchors, unable to sustain itself. The last thing Kratos saw was Vader, standing alone on Mortis, facing the approaching Empire. Not as Darth Vader, Dark Lord of the Sith, but as something else. Someone who had chosen, for one moment, to be the Jedi he'd once been. Then the portal sealed completely, and they were home. They stood in snow. Mountains surrounded them, the same peaks they'd seen before the rupture. The world tree's branches stretched above, no longer fractured. Ragnarok had ended. The realms had survived, and they had returned. "We did it," Atreus breathed, falling to his knees. "We're actually home." Kratos looked at his son, saw exhaustion, relief, traces of the Force still clinging to him like morning fog. That power would fade now, without the Force-saturated galaxy to sustain it. Atreus would return to being what he was, demigod, not Force-sensitive. But the lessons would remain. The understanding of balance. The knowledge that power meant nothing without the wisdom to wield it properly. "Come," Kratos said, helping his son stand. "We have been gone too long. There is work to do. Realms to rebuild." They walked through the snow, leaving a place where the portal had been. Behind them, nothing remained, no trace of their journey, no evidence they'd ever left. But Kratos knew the truth. They had crossed dimensions, had fought an empire, had stood against dark lords and emperors, and they had survived, together, as they always would. Somewhere in a galaxy far, far away, Darth Vader faced his emperor's wrath for betraying their cause, faced inquisitors and trials and punishments that would have broken lesser men. But for one moment, Anakin Skywalker had lived again, had done what he'd always wanted, saved someone he couldn't bear to lose. Not his wife, not his children, wherever they were, but 2 travelers, a father and son who reminded him of what he'd once been, what he'd tried to protect. It wasn't redemption. One good act couldn't erase decades of atrocities. But it was something, a crack in the armor, a reminder that beneath the machine, beneath the darkness, something human still remained. And in the 9 realms, Kratos and Atreus returned to their lives, fighting when necessary, building when possible, living the life they'd fought so hard to preserve. The Ghost of Sparta had crossed dimensions, faced impossible odds, and brought his son home safely. Some battles were won through strength, some through wisdom. This one had required both. And standing in the snow, watching Atreus smile with relief and exhaustion, Kratos knew one truth. He would do it all again, cross any distance, face any enemy, defy any empire, for his son, for his family, for the future they'd earned through blood and determination. The Force might bind the Star Wars galaxy together. But love, simple, mortal, unbreakable love, had proven stronger than any power the Force could offer. And that was victory enough.